Hello, and welcome to Plugging Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time, in response to a community question, we looked at the HunterFocus plugin and fixed a few bugs that were stopping it from working out of the box. Today, we're going to start by looking at the SocialGuy plugin for another community member, and as time permits, we'll look at the Bootstrap plugin manager and Titan bar as well. As always, I have a rough outline of topics to cover, but please feel free to jump in to chat with your thoughts and questions. That being said, I'm going to make sure I can see the chat window. Hello, shoreless guys. Make sure I can see my compositing window so I don't put things on top of other things. All right, excellent. So welcome from this fountain in Brie, which I'm not sure I've ever seen before, but it looks pretty cool. And let's get going. So what is the SocialGuy plugin? I'm going to go ahead and actually look at my flickering lights in the background with some distrust. All right, that's weird. I'm going to switch over to showing my desktop as well. Excellent. And let's go over to the LOTRO interface website. So in here, if we search for SocialGuy, all one word, we get this great plugin by Radicus. What does it do? Well, it's a convenient way to organize your emotes. Now, it's pre-organized for you, but it's a convenient way to see your deed-related emotes, or I think there are some emotes for questing areas. And so let's go ahead and get this installed. Now, I'm going to use the plugin compendium. It's one of my favorite tools, but you can always install these things manually as well. So let's give a search for SocialGuy, click that, add that, and it's done. Great. Let's look at it in-game. I'm just going to go ahead and open up my plugin manager here. Remember that when you load a new plugin or change something, you do have to hit this refresh button in order for LOTRO to know about it. It doesn't scan the directory for changes. Awesome. SocialGuy is a quicker way of gaining the social titles by allowing you to select multiple emotes and sending them to the player of your choice. Daily limits still apply. Well, we'll break that down here in a minute. For more information, bug reports, etc., visit there or find me on the Landroll server. Awesome. It's always nice when there's multiple ways to contact a plugin developer. Okay, so what is a social deed? Well, for that, I'm actually going to pull up the LOTRO wiki, another one of my favorite places to go. LOTRO wiki. So the LOTRO wiki has some flaws. It's fan-made, so the information in the wiki is not always 100% accurate. But they do a darn good job for being unpaid volunteers. If we go to social deeds, does that pull up anything? Neat, it does. There are numerous hidden deeds in LOTRO regarding emotes. So you can make progress on these deeds and they will not show up in your race and social tab until you complete them. So you don't know how far along you are on them. And here are some examples. If you receive the /flirt emote 100 times, no more than 5 times per 1 day, then you will complete the deed alluring and receive a title, the alluring. Neat. Now, at some point in the past, I believe this was changed so that you can also emote at an NPC and receive credit for this. I've confirmed this over on Treebeard, where we're doing all these again for our new characters. And you can do a /rude, /flirt, /laugh at Wenda Cranesbill, for instance, while you're getting your VIP subscriber benefits. And you can do them at her, and it counts just as much as receiving it from another play character. So it's fun to receive them. It's fun to have kinship parties where you all emote at each other. But if you don't have anyone to trade emotes with, you can do it at at least a named NPC. I haven't tried it on like an NPC that's like Stable Master with no particular name, but I have to assume, unless there's other evidence, that it works on any NPC that you can target. Hello, Iron Wolf. Welcome to chat. Oh, Little Redhead in chat has said she's used the stable masters. I do wonder if she means named stable masters, like they have in many of the early areas, or later on they kind of gave up giving a dedicated name just to stable masters because they didn't want to run the risk of running out of good names for more relevant NPCs to the storyline. Okay, the one in the neighborhood. I think that one has a name, but I'd have to double check. Cool. So this is a list. We have alluring, we have befuddling, we have beloved. There are some non-emote related things mixed in here. For instance, Defender of Karis Gladden doesn't have anything to do with an emote. I think the Lambus Eater might be mixed in here. Oh, sorry, Lambus. Okay, it's down below. It's under food eating. That's good. And we can see there's a couple different ones listed in here. The reputation social deeds, the food eating deeds, the survival deeds, and the Slayer deeds. Oh, right, poor Slayer. Excellent. Don't forget the one in Avondom. Okay, so SocialGuy. If I lit it up here, the first thing you see is its mini icon appears center of the screen. Great, you can click and drag it anywhere you want. I like over by the radar here. And if you left click it, interesting. Oh, left click to drag, right click to open. Okay, so if you right click it, you get the window. Hello, Steady Eddie. Thank you for joining us. Did I ever play any Lord of the Rings tabletop RPG games? Not RPG games. We did get, in the before times, we did get Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, which is an interesting game which you can mix up with, I believe, a phone or tablet, which acts as sort of your dungeon master and tells you things that, the results of battle and that kind of thing. That being said, it's been more than a year since I've played it, but I remember it being both very interesting, very aesthetically appealing, and very challenging. We died multiple times on the last mission that we played. Then, pandemic happened, and it kind of got set on the side while we were doing other things. So I can recommend it as long as you don't mind losing to a board game. Cool. Okay, so this is the SocialGuy window. And the first thing we can see here is a list of emotes. Now, I don't know if this list is complete. It may be possible that a plugin like this predates the in-game emote browser, which is very nice. But it does serve a purpose on top of that by collecting them together into purposeful things. We can see here that red are moods. Haven't actually played around with those too much. Blues, it says, are related to social titles. Greens are for the Northern dailies, and I think that's beyond where I have been because I have not done Northern dailies that involve emotes, but that's pretty cool. And yellow underneath those green ones, oh, there we go. This is Common Congratulate and Salute. And yellow underneath there are just the standard emotes, that is, they don't fit into any other category. Okay. So, because of Treebeard, which I'm on right now, am I hearing horses? Maybe it's just my horse. I'm going to dismount. I keep hearing my horse. You're too loud, horse. So, Treebeard. We're new on Treebeard. We love completing deeds. They're fun. They're a way to kind of measure characters' progress. And we're starting all over on the social deeds, and we're looking for ways to kind of streamline it. In the past, I've done things like just drag each of the 16, have a shortcut to it, and then as I complete them, just remove that shortcut. That's fine. It kind of consumes a bunch of spaces, though. You only get 12 per row, so that's a row and a half just for those emote buttons. And it takes at least 20 days to complete every one of these deeds. So the SocialGuy plugin was an appealing alternative. But one of the first things you might notice is there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 blue things here. And I was using the number 16. I'm pretty sure it's a 16. In fact, we can do a little search for space slash and 1, 2, 3, 4, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it's repeating them. That's why. So I believe it's about 16. So we were noticing some of the ones were missing, and at least one of the ones in this list doesn't relate to a deed that we know of. And so I was just looking to reorganize that, and I did that for myself and Little Redhead. But it felt like maybe we should show what that looks like and also release it as a patch. So for anyone else who wants a more up-to-date list of the social titles. So that's what we're going to look at today. How does this plugin look under the covers, and how do we change it? And then what does it look like to release that patch? And if we have time, we'll move on to other things. In the meantime, if you do have questions or comments or want to derail into other plugin topics, do feel free to jump into chat. Don't feel like you're going to disrupt what I'm doing here. I will get distracted no matter what happens, so it might as well be to answer a question in chat. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull up a text editor. You can, of course, use just about any text editor to work with LOTRO plugins. It is just a scripting language called Lua. But if you have a more advanced one, I use Sublime Text, which understands the language of Lua enough to do syntax highlighting. Some people last time were talking about using Visual Studio Code with a Lua plugin, which sounds like a really nice way to do it. Like you'll get all sorts of convenience features that way. But we'll keep it relatively simple. Okay, so we want to go to Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, Plugins, and it's in Radicus. So just like normal, we have a .plugin file that tells LOTRO how to load the plugin, and we have a .plugin compendium, which tells the plugin compendium more about the plugin. In here, we have window, main, icon button, emotes. All right, well, emote sounds promising. Cool, okay. So we see we're getting an array of emotes, which corresponds to the text that we're seeing over here. Pardon me, just had something in my throat there. So these contribute to social titles. Dale's Shoppers. Oh, that's what that is. We've got the standard emotes listed underneath there. Now, what's interesting about this list is it doesn't tell us a color, and it's not divided explicitly into any sort of subarrays. It's just one long list with comments, which Lua does not care about. Lua ignore those, and LOTRO does not care about them. So those are only for us to see. And we just see the comments separating these into pieces. So somewhere else, there is logic that determines color. Okay. Well, icon button, main. Now, main could be interesting. Windows probably the place you want to be. But sometimes it can be useful to take a look at the main file and see what's going on. Let's see. I know there's a way to collapse sections. I didn't find it last time, but it's going to bug me. Oh well. Okay, so we have what happens when we unload, hiding the panel in response to the F12 command. Awesome. Whenever you see a number like this, an arbitrary number like that, it may be because there's no Lua defined value like turbine dot F12. But oftentimes a number that looks like that means something a little bit more clear in hexadecimal. If you're using Windows, you can come on in, set it to programmer mode, and when you paste that value in, we can see that hex value is a 1 at the beginning, a bunch of zeros, and then B3. Okay, so it's B3 with a 1. All right, that's interesting. Okay, what else do we have? Some max emotes, SocialGuy, ready to part. Okay, cool, nothing much in there. So let's go over to the window.lua. This might have more. For instance, maybe we search for the word red, we'll find more information. I'm gonna move SocialGuy over so we can make that a little wider. Okay, so we can see some comments in here, displaying moods in red, displaying social titles in blue, displaying northern dailies in green, and the rest in yellow. Okay, what's going on here? What is K? We've got, okay, so we've got a Lua iteration. We're iterating through each of the emotes, and we're getting a key and a value. Now, there's an implicit key for each of these that, index 1, index 2, index 3, that we can use. It's interesting that they're doing key value pairs, but it's fine. And then for each thing in emote, okay, that's why they're doing it. It's a freebie indexer into these other arrays, where they have an array of emote labels and an array of controls, an array of quick slots. Okay, that's clever. I like that. Cool. Okay. And so for each one of these entries, we are, if the entry number is between 1 and 11, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so they're just manually saying, we know that these are moods, we know that these are social titles, and because of that, we'll just have that. I probably wouldn't default to doing that way. Or I might have some constants somewhere instead of just, in programming, you'll hear these called magic numbers, which is really just, you see a number like 24 and it's like, poof, where did it come from? It's a magic number. And so a lot of times you'll have something a little bit more like, we could say a local, we could just name them. So mood min equals 1, local mood max equals 11. And then suddenly it's a little bit more obvious if you sub those in what's going on. Oh, if the index is between the minimum and maximum for moods, it's a mood. Okay, cool. You don't have to do it that way. Obviously, you can just use the magic numbers, and for something just like this, could go either way. But that would be kind of my default, is make that a little bit more maintainable so the next person coming in to add a new emote or do something isn't scratching their head at, what does this mean? So that's a thought. That's a thought. So if we're going to do that, we can go ahead and do local social min equals 12. Have to spell it right though. And a local social max equals 24. Local, what else do we have? Northern daily min equals, that one sounds really interesting. I don't have a character that's progressed through the story to Dale. Like, I've had characters that have gotten to Dale, but not in the story. So I have no idea why that exists, but it sounds cool. Okay, 28. And then local, oh, they don't actually check, it's just everything else. Okay, so we can sub those in. And if we wanted to be a little bit clever about reducing duplications, we could actually say, you know what, the socials start 1 after the moods, right? So we don't need that. And same thing, the Northern dailies start 1 after the socials. So we can just say, oh, thanks, Del, but I don't want updates. So we could say, hey, if this number changes, this is going to change automatically. Someone says, I pasted it in the wrong place. Yeah, you're probably right. Although, where? Well, we'll just undo a few things here because one thing that it might be nice to know is instead of hand coding all of these, what if we just had a count of how many are in there? So local mood count equals 11. And then this can be mood min plus mood count, and then -1 because of the way that works. I didn't replace the 24. Ha ha ha. Thank you, Iron Wolf, for catching that. That would have been an annoying one to track down. Excellent. So local mood count, local social count. So we can see 12 to 24 plus 1 because you count the first one. So we know currently there's 13 of those, and local northern daily count equals 5, 6, 7, 8, 4. Sounds right. This column congratulates Lou. Great, yeah. So we can do that all the way down. We can say mood max plus 1, and then social max equals social min plus social count minus 1. Northern daily max equals, or min equals social max plus 1. And then northern daily max equals northern daily min plus northern daily count minus 1. Now, as someone who comes from more of a brace-oriented C, C#, C++ point, a starting point, these less than and equals just kind of grate on me. And in a different world, I might go ahead and say, no, we're not doing minus ones there, and we're not doing less than or equals. We'll just go less than that. So the max is actually 1 beyond. You can do it either way. As long as you're consistent, that's great. Oh, so someone in chat, let me pause here for a moment and bump my microphone. Someone says, can I have a small help? When I'm trying to log in on my main alt, the game takes a long time. Try to enter with my other alts and the game loads normally. Any trick to solve this? So, welcome. First, a warning, I am not a Standing Stone Games employee. I'm just an avid fan of both the game and plugins. So, I don't have any official capacity, but we can go through a few troubleshooting steps. So, Straw Hat, the first thing is always, if you have any plugins, go ahead and disable them and then log in and log out and see if it still takes a long time, because that is a thing that can affect you. And plugins, while nifty, aren't officially supported by SSG, and a few of them have been known to cause longer log off times. So that's the first thing. If you're using plugins, disable them all, and an easy way to do that is just to in the plugin manager, let's see. So there's an automatically load for it. You can say none, but if you're comfortable doing file manipulations in your Documents, Lord of the Rings Online plugin data folder, if you just move everything in here, just move it somewhere else for now and bring it back after we're done testing, then the game will not know that you want to load any plugins, so it'll just default to nothing. So that's a way to just not go through and set a bunch of plugins if you use them. Okay, so if you don't use any plugins, or if you do and turning them off didn't help, the next thing would be, some people have reported logging off delays if you have a bunch of things in your inventory or shared inventory. So if you have done character transfers that have boosted your shared storage way beyond the normal 320. For instance, Streamer Druid's Fire has shared storage in like 900 or something. And as a result, she notices that logging off takes her longer. So that would be a thing to watch out for, is if you're running with an especially big shared storage. Beyond that, if you're only experiencing it with that one character, but none of the other ones, what's different about that character? Different class, different race? Are they further along in the game? Are they logging? Are they sitting in the middle of Minas Tirith, or are little things like that? So anyway, I don't want to keep on going on if I'm totally off base here. So feel free to chime into chat, and we'll just continue on here with SocialGuy. Okay. No guarantee I remember where I was. Oh, yes. So why am I going through all this nonsense? Well, the numbers, the hard-coded numbers, 1 to 11, that is great until you go and start changing things here. For instance, we know that we're going to be adding some and removing some of these emotes to make this list correct with the current list of social deeds. So it might be nice to have a single place to change this, just the social count. if we can change this in one place, okay, there's 16 instead of 13, and everything else just automatically changes, that is a little bit more change proof. So the next time we come in, we need to add a deed, we need to change something. Could we do without it? Absolutely. We don't need any of that. But from a style perspective, it can be really useful to go ahead and kind of set out, what do these numbers mean? How are they related to each other? And what's the minimum way we can change them in the future? Iron Wolf has a very good question. Would I move these to the emotes? And I think that's a really good point. Is they don't really belong in the window. They don't have anything to do with the window. The window just wants to make use of them. It might make a lot more sense, and of course, we wouldn't want to declare them local here then, because they would disappear before we got to use them. So it might make more sense to have them here. In fact, part of me really wishes there was some sort of syntax where we could define them in line like this, but I don't think that's legal. I don't want to have them at the end because you might never realize they're here. So ahead of time, have to do. So when you change something here, you would just have to remember to change it up here. In fact, you don't have to just remember. We can even say, if you add or remove emotes from the moods, social, or northern sections, remember to update the counts above. And that's actually a really interesting point too. If you don't want people doing this, if this is just a convenience, maybe do hide it down here at the bottom of the file where no one's going to notice it. Because we want to use them, but you don't have to do anything about them. They're automatically correct as long as the counts are correct. So good point, Iron Wolf. I like it. And we can even say, update these when emotes are added or removed from moods, social, or northern. Cool. Just in case, this is about emotes, this is about these, and if for some reason something came between them, we were adding more stuff, it's helpful just to have that, a little bit of redundancy in the comments. It does mean that if you had to change one, you'd have to change both of them, but I think it makes more sense here. Okay, so we have this, and this. The real question is, have we broken anything? So let's come back in here, and get those changes back in that I blew away for expository purposes. Mood min, less than or equal to mood max, social min, all right, and social max. Great. And then that. So ideally, we haven't really changed anything. So let's unload, reload, and see if anything breaks. Now, we didn't get any error messages, so there's not a syntax error. And just looking here, we can see the moods are red, the socials are blue, we have the 4 northerns, and then everything else. Okay, looking great so far. Oh, thanks, Moobot. I know the festival's here. I do not have enough time to run everything on both the characters I want to. It's very sad. I keep trying to fish for the fishy quest, something fishy, and I keep on getting the wrong fish. Okay, so we've done some preparation. We've done a little bit of code tweaking so that this logic is hopefully a little bit easier to follow and is a little bit more change resistant. Now the next thing is, what should this list be? Because I know it's not right, but how do I know that? Well, there's no in-game reference, but there are a couple of ways we can dig into this. There is a plugin called the Deed Tracker, and it will list deeds whether or not you've started them and whether or not they are hidden. So let's go ahead and get that installed. Great. Refresh. Deed Tracker. All right. It came with the turbine stuff. Need to fix that. Okay, so dtracker, if we look at the class race epic tab, under race and social, we're going to see emotes. It's a pretty straightforward name. So we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 down there. So that is a reference. And when you hover over each one of these, it's going to tell you which emote, the slash flirt, the slash confused. Okay, that is a way. But if you're not looking for that particular plugin solution, we can also just come to the wiki, and it also has this information. Alluring, befuddled, beloved. Cool. Okay, so let's just build up our own double checking here. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy things out. Here, let me move that over. Let me move this over. Great. Okay, so we've got flirt, confused, slash kiss. Nope, not that one. Slash bored, slash cheer, slash beg, slash thank, slash bow, slash angry, slash rude, whoops, slash cower, slash laugh, slash scold. And this is why you don't want to necessarily type these out every day for 20 to 40 days. You want to either have shortcut buttons or you want to go ahead and have a plugin that helps you. It's just a lot of them. Okay, so that was the 16. Oh, I missed it. It's got a full list down here. I forget that it has that. I really need to maybe edit and move that up to the top or something. But it's okay. So if your text editor allows it, go ahead and sort those. And we have the full list right here. So let's take a look and see what SocialGuy is doing. Now that we have our authoritative list, SocialGuy also has them in alphabetical order. That's very handy. So we have slash angry, beg, bored. Oh, we're missing a slash bow. Okay, so looks like it's just that. Bow, comma, space. Okay. Confused. Oh, we're also missing cheer. So cheer. Now, just for right now, I'm going to go ahead and mark these that we've added because we can go ahead and remove them from the list below. I think that makes sense for them to only show up in one place. So cheer, confused, cower, flirt, hug is not in the list. I mean, it feels like it should be. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. And while I'm thinking about it, the standard emotes, we can go ahead and... Oh, it's already there. Good. Well, that's a good point. What about slash angry? Is that just the full list? Slash... No, it looks like they're not doing that. Okay. So where were we? Flirt, kiss, laugh is missing. Okay. So we'll mark that. Mock, rude, salute is missing, and that one's an important one because that gives you the sword salute emote. Possibly the best one. Scold, surrender, and thank. Okay, so we've added in bow and cheer. So let's go ahead and kill that here and here. And then laugh and salute. Now, like I said, I could see it either way, just a full list at the bottom, but it seems like that's not what they're doing. It seems like, for instance, the slash surrender, if we come on down here, it is not in here. Okay. So we now have a list of 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Good. We have 16 emotes in that list. So we want to come up here and adjust the social count to 16. Then there's still 4 dailies, and then it's just everything else. So is that it? What else do we need? I don't know. Let's find out. So let's first unload and then come back in and load. Well, Oh, I didn't actually save that file. That's going to be a non-starter. Okay, so we have our official list of what it should be. We can see angry, beg, bored, bow, cheer, confused, cower, flirt, kiss, laugh, mock, rude, salute, scold, surrender, and thank. All of those are in blue. We can see we still have 4 of the northern dailies, and we can see all the moods here are still red. Now, I'm not sure what the moods are used for. If it were me, I might want the social ones at the top because that's what I personally use this for. Now, that's actually really doable. You can always modify your own plugins. If I wanted to, I could move these up and change the logic down here appropriately, and it would be fine. But for now, we'll go ahead and leave that ordering. It probably makes sense, and it will be a smaller change set. Okay. Well, I think that's it. Now, if you're not familiar with SocialGuy, there's other things that I think it's capable of doing where you can select these 16 and just click a button to kind of cycle through them, either because you have some role-playing purposes where you want to cheer and then you want to charge and then you want to do this other thing, or you just want to do the social deeds here. I haven't played around with that too much though, but it looks pretty cool and I hope that works the way I think it does. That being said, I just resized my window and it threw it over to the other screen. That's great. That being said, let's go ahead and close off this list that I made. Let's go back here and well, I think we're done. Unless anyone had any other questions or concerns, we might be able to put together a patch for SocialGuy which fixes, quote unquote, which updates the social title section of this list. Okay, well, while anyone is typing, I'm gonna go ahead and get a drink, and then we need the original files to compare this against. Okay, so how do we get those files? Well, we're gonna go back to LOTRO interface and just hit the download button here. I don't want to use LOTRO compendium because I don't want to overwrite what we just did. So I have downloaded that. We can go ahead and extract. Over here, please. We can go ahead and extract those here. And now we can see what has changed. Now, if you don't have it already, I highly recommend some sort of file comparison utility. I happen to use Beyond Compare. But as long as it can do comparison of both files and folders, you're good to go. All right, so let's go ahead and say, show me the differences between the original Radicus and what we just did. It's going to pop up on the other screen, of course, but let me resize that a little bit. But we can see, if we do an expand, that it thinks 2 things have changed. That makes sense. First, it thinks we changed window.lua. That's fascinating. Did I make a new line there? I might have. Now, when I'm doing patches like this, I do like to make the minimum changes possible. So if I made a new line, let's go ahead and get rid of that. Okay, what's changed? We've replaced these magic numbers with mood min, mood max, social min, social max, and northern daily min, northern daily max. And that's it. That's all we did there. Cool, that's all we meant to do. And in the emotes, we can see we added these helper variables and these comments, and we added bow, cheer, laugh, and salute, and removed hug, and at the same time, removed bow, cheer, laugh, and salute from the list of all of them. And finally, we have those helper mins and max variables here. Okay. Well, that's all the changes we meant to make, and nothing else slipped in there. That's great. Sometimes you add something that isn't meant to go in. So we're good to go, right? Let's look at making a patch. Well, actually, you know what? I shouldn't have closed that window. I'm going to refer back to it. Okay, good. So making a patch. In general, you only want to put files that changed in the patch. That keeps it that keeps it relevant for as long as possible, because if the plugin developer releases an updated version that doesn't change those files, that changes something else, then your patch still works 100% right out of the gate. It's only if they change a file and you change a file that you need to go in and update your patch to incorporate their changes, or hopefully they incorporate your patch changes into the core plugin. But that being said, the fewer files that are in your patch, the less possible conflict there is with anything that the plugin developer does, keeps your patch relevant longer. Cool. So I have a plugin along releases folder, and we want to go ahead and make one for SocialGuy. Now this is SocialGuy version 2.20. So we're going to just do an incremental bump. Our version will be 2.20.1. Okay. So SocialGuy version 2.20.1. Now, when we talk about version changes, something we didn't do was change the version of the .plugin file. We do want to go ahead and change that because otherwise, automated tools like the LOTRO plugin compendium can't tell the difference between a patched version and a not patched version. So we'll go ahead and bump that here. And then I saw a typo in here actually. It's a quicker way of gaining the social titles. We're just going to go ahead and remove that duplicate, gaining the social titles by allowing me to select multiple emotes and sending them to the player of your choice. Awesome. Love it. Thank you, Radicus. Okay. So we've updated that .plugin file. Now, something that I don't have a good grasp on yet is how to make a plugin compendium for a patch. I think it's like a regular one, but it's going to have a dependency on the plugin that you're patching. That being said, Lunar Water, who updates the plugin compendium, seems to be on summer holiday, so they have not been actively commenting in the LOTRO plugin compendium thread on LOTRO interface. So it seems a little silly firing off questions to them if I knew they were away. So I haven't asked them about that yet. But I think that's what's going on. So we'll go ahead and hold off on a plugin compendium file. This will just be a manual patch for now. So our SocialGuy version 2.20.1 will have a Radicus plugins folder, because you have to match the original folder structure exactly. And then inside of that, we're going to have a SocialGuy.plugin file, because that has changed to a new version. And then inside here, we need a SocialGuy. And finally, we know emotes and window changed, because that's what our file comparison said. In fact, it'll see the plugin file too now. All right, emote and window, copy that over. So if the plugin developer changes icon, button, or main, our patch will interoperate with that just fine. Since emotes and window are like the main parts of this, that doesn't seem very likely, but you never know. All right, we have staged this. So I know too many folders here. We'll go ahead and create that zip file. So in the releases, we're going to go ahead and create a zip file. And it's just going to be named that same thing, SocialGuy version 2.20.1. And in that, we need the Radicus plugins folder. All right. Well, we're good here. Now we just need to throw it out into LOTRO interface. So if you haven't seen that before, or just want to see it again, we're going to do that. So first of all, we're on LOTRO interface. Let's see. I always have to search for this. Submit, there it is. There is a submit button. And because I am logged in, you can see my B4 identifier there. We can see that we can either upload a new interface or /add-on, or oh, if you're updating one of your existing ones. Cool. What I really need is patches. Is there patches? There's a patches. Good. All right, we're going to go, and in our release folder, we're going to pick SocialGuy version 2.20.1. Images. Oh, sure. I love images. So we're going to go ahead and use the Windows snipping tool to grab a quick little shot of the screen. If you take an in-game screenshot, it tends to get a little fuzzy because of JPEG compression. This gets us all the pixels we want and none of the ones we don't. Okay, we'll just do a partial shot there. So I'm going to save that in my documents, releases, and then we'll just call it that. SocialGuy 2.1 sample.png. Great, love it. Chromite says is not complimentary about the built-in LOTRO screenshot feature. I tend to agree that I don't like the results as much as a snip, but choosing the right compromise between JPEG compression and disk space is a non-trivial one because you want your answer to be correct for the broadest number of people, because you do always, as a player, you always have that fallback of whatever your operating system allows or a third-party tool. I can do a snip, and if I do it in window mode, and I just say, that window, please, then I just get everything, right? And so, oh, that's funny. I got a little bit of the snipping tool, too. All right, let's drag that out of the way. So you can grab all the pixels that way, and in fact, because I'm in windowed mode, it even grabbed the window border as well. And so you have this tool that can get all of the pixels as they are, and then you can do whatever you want. And so as a developer, they have to be conscientious of not just people like me who have, I don't know, what do I have, a terabyte hard drive or something? Yeah, a terabyte hard drive, but also people who even now do not have that much or is rapidly running out of space because of all the podcasts they're downloading. Or exactly, as Iron Wolf points out, this is a feature you could do screenshots 14 years ago, and a hard drive 14 years ago was not going to be 1 terabyte or maybe even more than a few gigs. So how do you compromise for JPEG compression? Now you could be really fancy, or push the problem off to the player by having an option in here for like JPEG compression, just like image programs will do. Now, when I'm doing image manipulation, I'll use a program, a GNU image manipulation program, or GIMP. I've told it to launch, although it's launching on the other window. Just a moment. This may be a bad choice to try to launch it while I'm streaming, but we'll bring it on up. So that is just bigger than I need you to be, window. Okay. Yes, yes. So if I make a new image here, great. And if I do an export for JPEG, this screen that comes up, this is exactly the kind of screen that I, as a software developer, would not want to present to an average LOTRO player. Just needs to work across the gamut. So even if this was buried in a settings screen somewhere, WTF, right? And so if your quality up here is 95%, you're talking multiple megabyte screenshots. If your quality is too low, 70 or below or something, you're talking about really terrible screenshots. So there's a sweet spot in there for disk space and quality, and you have to be correct for 100,000 people. Like, I do not envy the developers at all for that. That being said, even just this top bar here for a quality option, that would be neat buried in like an advanced setting somewhere. Assuming it's not. I assume it's not. I haven't actually looked. All right. Screenshot. Key mapping. Okay. Just the screenshot. So that would be kind of cool, right? If under advanced graphics there was a screenshot quality and you could drag it just like that. that'd be cool, but what feature do you want to cut because some developer had to go implement that and test it and localize it into 3 different languages? I kind of want to see brawlers, so, Anyway, sidetracked, but yeah, JPEG compression is a fun topic. Chromite says, I use Greenshot for snipping and MSI Afterburner for full screenshots, both save in PNG. Yeah, absolutely. If you have the disk space, being able to just grab every pixel and save them off losslessly so that you don't lose any of that detail can be really useful, because you know what, I find Lord of the Rings quite pretty, and if I'm trying to get a screenshot of this fountain in Bree, whoa, no, I've fallen. Well, if I'm trying to get a screenshot of this fountain in Bree and then the hills in the background and the Barrow Downs, I want all those pixels, but that's a me thing, right? Where am I? I don't know. I think I'm going to go play in the fountain. Okay, I am not going to go play in the fountain. Okay. Cool. So, where were we? Okay, yes. We were taking a screenshot. Excellent. Iron Wolf says, yes, or a drop down of PNG or JPEG high, JPEG low. Absolutely. There's so many ways you can kind of streamline it for a more general audience while still giving choices. But every feature you add, every option is just another thing to test, another thing to develop, another thing to, think about. And that's a hard choice. Especially when the community, some parts of it very vocally, are already clamoring for other things that have a lot more broad appeal. Like screenshots, we already have workarounds. We don't have a workaround for the current wood chipper model of legendary items. And I'm super thrilled that they're spending their development time on the legendary item system and not on screenshots, right? Like that's a personal preference. Okay, so that being said, we just took a screenshot. Why were we doing that? Because LOTRO interface lets you do screenshots. Okay, we're back on track. Whoops, I did it in the wrong place though. So we want the SocialGuy zip file here, and managing images pops open this other window. We go ahead and choose a file, sample, and updated list of social Ds, because that's all we're doing. Cool. We can see that's what it's going to look like, and that's the text. Okay, good enough. There's a close this window button at the top. I get nervous when I close windows, so I just pop it back open. Oh, cool. The image is still there. All right, interface title. Cool. SocialGuy. What is the version? Cool. 2.20. Patch for social deeds. SocialGuy. Naming things is hard. This is like the hardest part of my job is naming things. Cool. File version 2.20.1. And we can expand on things here, which is why I'm not too worried about it. Okay, so one of the things I kind of skimped on the HunterFocus was the installation instructions. And so I went back after the fact. There we go. I went back after the fact and added in these installation and setup instructions, because installing a patch is pretty straightforward once you're used to it, and it's kind of scary when you're not used to it. So if you just copy and paste text from here, you lose this nice markup. So if you are the publisher of it, you can hit the edit button, and that lets you grab this markup. I'm just going to copy paste here and edit to choice. Okay, cool. So we have introduction, fixes the list of social deed emotes by, in SocialGuy version 2.20 by, what did we do? And this is where having this window still open is useful. something I was mentioning earlier, keeping your change sets small. A reason to not do what we did here, fixing these numbers, we had to fix them in some way. I was going to say, if there was a way we could do this change without touching the window.all, that makes our patch that much more robust because we're keeping it contained just to the emotes file. But we had to update these indexes anyway, or indices anyway, so we're good. I changed my mind. Everything's great. Okay. So we've got the list of changes right here. I'm just going to pull them off to the side. So we added /bow, /cheer, /laugh, and /salute. And we removed /hug. Oh, that's off the screen, but it's still there. Okay, so that's what we did. And for an ease of maintenance, hard-coded numbers were replaced with variables. Cool. Installation and setup. This is not going to be very different. Ironwolf points out, yes, if this code got rolled in to the SocialGuy plugin, which that would be amazing, one less thing for users to have to do, then they could hopefully see that, get inspired by it, roll those index changes over as well, not just the list of emotes. They could pick and choose as they deem. They are the plugin author, but they might say, oh, someone else has already done the work to refactor this code into a little bit more maintainability, zoop, and just take it all. Awesome, love it. Okay, so installation and setup, great. I'm just noticing, I wonder if my camera is backwards. Can you read the Lord of the Text, or Lord of the Rings text, or is that backwards, left to right? Anyway. Hmm? Is it mirrored? Haha, that's funny. Bam! All right, fix that. I completely forgot to look at that earlier. My phone is upside down. I'm using a phone as a camera, and it's upside down compared to where we were before, and it just does not remember that it is upside down. Oh well. Okay, so installation and setup. And this is going to be very similar. So we do want to go ahead and reference this. So first you need to install SocialGuy. Awesome. SocialGuy version 2.20. This patch only includes necessary changes to update that plugin. To install it, you can use plugin compendium or just unzip the archive and drag the, well, that's different, Radicus plugins. Excellent. The Radicus plugins folder into your Documents of the Rings plugins folder. If you have not installed any previous plugins, blah, blah, blah. Cool. Next, download this patch and unzip it. It also contains a Radicus plugins folder, which you should drag into the same place as before. You'll be prompted to overwrite files, answer yes. And it's nice to put these instructions in there just so people feel a little bit more comfortable. Because, you know, when I'm doing installations, like, do you want to overwrite these files? I start getting a little nervous, and I know what I'm doing, right? Like, I'm like, well, maybe I don't want to do that. And so, even though the instructions are largely the same, every patch, every plugin, it's nice to just be able to say, yes, you are seeing the right thing when it offers to overwrite plugins. In fact, if you don't see something that says, do you want to overwrite these files, that is a cause for concern because we are overwriting files here. Awesome. And then to load the plugin, everything's the same. When it opens, find SocialGuy. In the list on the left side, verify the version is 2.20.1. If it is 2.20, then you have not properly installed the patch. Click load. If you like it, automatically load for. Awesome. History. All right, well, it's nice to have a history. So this is the 17th, and we're doing version 2.20.1, fixed social deed entries. Did I say anything about it? Yeah, okay. Social deed emote. Social deed fixed list of social deed emotes. There we go. Do we want other people to submit patches and add-ons? I'm not sure what a patch to patch looks like, but sure, let's do it. And I have read all these once upon a time. Once again, I do encourage you, if you're uploading patches, do at least read through this once. It's important information. That being said, I am comfortable with their rules. Awesome. And that's it. We gave them a file, we gave them an optional screenshot, we gave them a description, and now some amount of time will pass and then the patch will be available. So once again, it could be 5 minutes, it could be never, because they could reject it for some reason. Usually it's somewhere in between there, maybe an hour or so, if you have an account in good standing kind of thing. I don't know what it is for the first plugin. I just remember submitting it and being like, refresh, 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 refresh. I don't know how long it took before it finally showed up. So just be aware it is possible that it could be a longer period of time than feels normal. And that's because there can be a manual oversight going on here. Someone can actually look at it and say, no. Okay, neat. Okay, that was progress, right? So we had the SocialGuy plugin, and the list of emotes was almost right, but it meant that if you followed it, you were doing one of them that you didn't need to, and 4 of them were being missed. And so you would only complete 12 of the 16 hidden deeds. And again, these are deeds that are hidden, so you don't actually know that you're making progress on it, except one of our kin members on Treebeard noticed something really interesting. So I need to find someone who has a quest ring for me. Excellent. There's someone. How do I get over there? Let me out. I don't know where I am. Spree. Okay, there we go. Okay, so if you are emoting at someone with a quest ring, someone noticed that the ring over their head flickers. But it only seems to do it when you are advancing a hidden deed. So let's take a look at that. The /assist is not linked to a hidden social deed. So I'm /assisting Tad Ashmead and nothing happens. But if I do a let's do a /flirt. If I do a /flirt, the theory is that that ring flickers. Now I didn't actually see that happen now. All right. So to truly replicate it, let's go into our neighborhood, because I've definitely seen it happen on Wenda Cranesville. Here's what I do for trying something live without actually testing it. Hopefully I can replicate it though. Okay, into the neighborhood. I fortunately snagged the house in the Hobbit neighborhood right next to the task boards and Wenda. It's like the best location. I highly recommend it, except I have it. Okay, let's try this again. So /assist /angry. Cool. Now, I don't know what it is about Wenda Cranesville. It might be because it's a repeated quest that I've already had. It might be because of something else, right? There's all sorts of hidden things going on, and Wenda is just phenomenally special. Like if I had to choose Elrond or Wenda, like Wenda, right? Like no question. So if we do a /angry, what did I do? /angry, yeah. So the ring over her head just flickers a little bit, and yeah, it looks like that's coming through on the stream. Let me know if it's not. But notice I hit 5 of them, and it stopped flickering because I am not progressing anymore on the daily bar. Like if you could see it, the bar is now yellow. I'm not making any more progress. But I can switch to the next one. And in SocialGuy, you can just right-click this button. Can you left-click? You can just click the button and you do the thing. So I'm /begging her, and we can see I got to 5 of them, and we're done for the day. Same thing with board. It's flicking 3, 4, 5. It's not flickering anymore. Now, do be careful. If you've already picked up her quest, if she has that ring over the head which says there's a quest, a repeatable quest, but you already have done it for the day, that one does not flicker at all. It's only the active quest ready to be picked up ring for Wenda. So unless that's a bug and unless some developer is listening and they're going to go fix that, that's a really neat way to know that A, you are progressing on the deed, or B, you have progressed enough today and you don't need to do any more. And that was just when one of the kin members said that, I was like, what? That's amazing, right? Because you just sort of have to think about it. And also, someone in the kin, this might have been Little Redhead, was noticing that there's a little ding sound, the normal deed progression sound when you progress on one of these. Now, I'm going to see if I can bump up the audio without blowing out everyone's ears here. So I'm going to go ahead and put sound effects up. I didn't hear it. But someone, let's see. Someone was pointing out, and I thought I saw it at the time, was that little ding sound that you get when you advance a deed. Ding, you know, and so if you're able to hear that, if your audio setup is set up that way, then do take advantage of that. But for me, this big ring going, boom. Oh, that's what it is. Chromite has said it's the hidden deed sound that you hear when you first open the hidden deed. And so if you've already done it, then, okay, you don't hear it on the progression, you just hear it when you first get awarded the hidden deed. Thank you for correcting my memory. It is like a bong. I highly recommend, if you're looking for that, just that validation that you are doing the right thing, until they fix it, use Windows Ring to guide you. And this is just more evidence that you can advance these deeds using an NPC instead of having to receive it from another player. I don't know if that was a change they made just to make it a little bit more accessible to people, because in the original incarnation, LOTRO was a little bit more, you need to group up to complete some of this content. Like, I remember when I first tried the game, some of the epic line stuff, like the caves and the troll shaws where you have to go up against these trolls that are not easy to solo, especially not back then when you didn't get the inspiration bonus. So it was one of those things where they're really trying to coerce people into grouping up, which is fun unless you can't find anyone to group up with, and then you're kind of blocked from the content. Chromite says you can hear the sound by buying the pocket item on Tinder and clicking it. I'm not sure which pocket item you mean. I do have this pocket item, which is pretty cool. But I don't think that's what you meant. Okay, well, that got me a little distracted there. So SocialGuy is really a cool way to just have a consolidated list of these emotes, now a correct list of these emotes, that you can just iterate through instead of having to tie up valuable real estate. And what I was mentioning before is what I would do is when I was first starting, I would do, okay, get the angry emote and drag it on in, and then get the beg emote and drag it on in. And you can totally do that, but it takes a lot of space. It's just, it's a little less elegant. So if you're a plugin person, as I am, just having this list right here, so good. Okay. Oh, Chromite says it's a pocket item. No one knows what it does, but when you click it, you can hear that hidden deed sound. That's amazing. I mean, man, if I was a developer and I wanted to troll people, that's exactly the kind of thing I would do. Like, it's a pocket item. It just makes a dong sound. There's nothing nefarious here. That's fantastic. Well, I'll have to look into that. I don't think I've had that pocket item. Okay. Iroh says, dragging them in. How about /shortcut 12/angry? Like a real old schooler. Absolutely, you can do that. Just to reiterate, and we covered this a little bit last time, the /shortcut takes a shortcut location, and this is just a number where the slots are numbered 1 through 12 for the first row, 13 through 24, and so on. Actually, let me hold it open so we can see. So if we do a /shortcut and 13/angry, we can see we don't get the nice image showing the shaking fist. We just get /angry. I get angry, but I'm mounted up, so it didn't help. There we go. Now, people were talking last time about aliases, which sound amazing. I haven't actually gotten into them, but they were talking about making an alias and then using a shortcut to bind to that alias to make this a little bit less ugly. Uh, but yeah, no, I actually really appreciate the collections manager for both. Well, the Stable Master one, I really wish there was like a zoom out button, but no, I do really like it. And one thing, actually, side note on the side note, is if you are clicking on a location, you are seeing where it goes to, not where, not the places that will go to it. And it's sometimes an incomplete list because they keep updating things. But sometimes you can travel to a place, but you can't travel back. And so, I don't know, we were doing something. Maybe it was Hobbiton. And it was like, oh, sweet, Shire Homesteads. Okay, we can go to the Shire Homesteads and travel to Hobbiton. It's like, no, this is Hobbiton to Shire Homesteads, one-way travel only. So, just a little thing. But no, I really love the moats collection panel, the mounts, and the pets. And so if you haven't played around with them, I do highly recommend them as a nice consolidated way I just want to see the emotes that I need. Okay, great. And the ones that I need and are earnable. Okay, great. That's a list. And so if you're a completionist, it's really nice. Okay. Chromite says, a problem with the aliases is sometimes they stick and they never get deleted from the character, even if you do delete them. And Chromite hasn't figured out a workaround. Okay. Well, that is a good to know thing. It makes me wonder, are the aliases stored server side then? Or are they not stored client side in some sort of configuration file? If they're stored client side, then if the game is closed, I would expect just going in and manually editing that file would get rid of them, even if the UI isn't updating that file for some reason. But if they're stored server side, then yeah, that sounds harder to fix if it's being sticky. Okay. Just out of curiosity, if I go to SocialGuy, oh, neat. So the patch shows up, but we can see that it's currently waiting approval from a file admin. We'll only be able to download older versions of this file until it's improved. In fact, there are no older versions of the file, so there's no downloading. And once it is approved, it'll also be visible in the patch area here at the top. It'll be visible for people who are visiting this page. They can see, oh, there's a patch, neat. But how'd that image come through? Update a list of social dates. Neat. Perfect. Okay. So we have about 45 minutes left of scheduled time and then question mark amount of excess time. Oh, more chat. Chromite says they're stored server side as well as client side in your layout files. But if you don't have any layout files, then they aren't stored client side. Interesting. Okay. When you say layout, do you mean like the skin files? So if I come into documents, Lord of the Rings, UI. Oh, those layout files. Oh. I gotcha. I wonder if I have any aliases. I don't. Okay. So there's an alias section here. Yeah, okay. Yes, I do the, I use the UI layout saved name, and I mentioned this before, but when I started doing chicken mode kind of heavily, I really needed that. Yeah, I just don't enjoy it when my UI changes in chicken mode. So having a plugin file, which is why it's named chicken, because I was saving my normal layout to use in chicken mode, and it just stuck. Cool. Okay, so with our remaining time, there were two possible directions I was going to go. I think it might have been Chromite mentioned the Bootstrap plugin manager, which has a couple of buttons that maybe aren't working the way they once did. And also, there's some changes to Titan Bar, which to support festival tokens. Chromite is voting for Bootstrap. That works for me. Now, this will be an unscripted delving into Bootstrap because I've installed it, but I don't know how the code is working at all. And so we're going to do an exploration together. Okay, so let me close down those things. And first, this is a plugin, so we're going to go take a look. Bootstrap. Now, what I find interesting, now first of all, when you do a search, when something is in outdated LOTRO interfaces, this isn't necessarily a sign that it doesn't work, but it is probably a sign that it's not actively maintained and it was designed for an earlier version of LOTRO. And that comes to light actually really early on in the description, because the description last changed a little over 10 years ago. Bootstrap is a plugin manager for LOTRO. Its purpose is to ease using some other plugins through a graphical user interface and some degree of automation. Since the plugin system is not officially supported, still in beta state, LOTRO does not currently provide a graphical user interface or settings to manage plugins. Iron Wolf asked, did you make a note about turbine samples in Deed Tracker? I did. It's actually on my to-do list. One of these days, now that we have moved, I will be doing another release of Deed Tracker. And so LOTRO Plugin Compendium mentioned adding a dependency on item 0 as a sign that you want the turbine files. And that brings in those samples as well, which isn't terrible, but it kind of clutters things up. And so I believe there's a different one you can depend on that's just the turbine files, and so I need to make that change in the next release, and it is in my to-do. But thank you for checking on that, because it is one of those things where I don't personally mind the sample files being there, but I don't really want to inflict them on other people. Unfortunately, now that they're there, I can't like uninstall them as part of the process, but it'll have to do. Okay, Edeleth says, there's a LOTRO announcement on Twitter. The legendary world of Anor will be getting a level cap increase and content unlocked tomorrow, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern time. This level cap will increase to 115 and covers Mordor and the Legacy of the Necromancer quest pack. Neat. Well, welcome, Elda. Thank you for posting that. Anor's progression is exactly why I love Treebeard, because I just can't keep up with Anor. Like for a while there after Bombadil last year, we were like, yeah, Anor kind of captures some of that same feeling, roar, and we just couldn't play on there and on Evernight at a speed that let us keep up. You know, we'd get to 60 and the level cap would go to 75. We'd get to 70, the level cap was already 85, and it's just like, ah. So the prospect of Treebeard not changing for months is delightful to me, and I'm super glad they came out with that as a compromise for people who wanted faster, people who wanted slower. Great. Go to your respective servers and rock on. I love it. Okay, so yeah, Bootstrap dates back from a time when there was not a plugin manager. Plugins manager. So this thing didn't always exist, and Bootstrap is an attempt to make this, actually. And it looks like it does a pretty cool job. So if we look at it, it looks like it has a list of plugins at the top in a nice wide format, so you can see the plugin and the author and the version. I really like the aesthetic of that. It looks like you could load the plugin through this. I don't know what show does, just looking at this. Oh, interesting. So, sorry, I'm just admiring the screenshot. So it looks like there was is a button that you can press, and within that you could activate other plugins, like bring their window open or that kind of thing. It definitely looks like it had some concept of what are the chat commands that you can use, the slash commands. That's cool. Okay. Okay. Chromite says Bootstrap is awesome, allows a drop-down menu in-game to dynamically launch plugins if you don't need them loaded at login. Now that is something you can do in Plugin Manager. If you load it up, you can come to something, you can say load, but streamlining that does sound like a really cool thing. So, okay. What else do we have? Allows user to load all user selected plugins on startup in the order specified. That's interesting actually, because the LOTRO plugin manager does not do an ordering, and most of the time that doesn't matter, I wouldn't think, but just the concept of that is really fascinating, because every once in a while you do want to make sure this other thing is loaded because my plugin is depending on it for some purpose. Cool. Okay, yeah. More chat. Chromite says, Bootstrap allows you to load all your normal plugins when you want them, and in any order by clicking a single button. And for some plugins that are a little laggy, that can be a way to avoid doing that when you're logging in. That's actually a really good point. If you are a person who likes bouncing in to grab your ingredient crates. So I happen to know this house over here has ingredient crates. Thanks, Sandy. And if you're the type of person who has maybe 10 characters and just want to log in and grab your ingredient crates and log off, having to load any plugins while you're doing that slows down the process, and really you just log in, click, click, log off. And so having a way to delay plugin loading until you know that you're going to be online with that character and not just popping in to get these things, that sounds really useful. Okay. Oh, Iron Wolf is saying, seeing LIP. I don't know that one in that screenshot. And what you showed today makes me want to update it, but I don't know what all the changes are. Just know it's no longer current. Okay, well, you've got me curious. What's an LIP? Oh, Legendary Item Planner. Oh, well, aren't they revamping the entire Legendary Item system? Might be worth holding off until until they're done changing that. I'm super excited to see what they come up with. I joke. It feels like the current system is like, this thing is a super rare item from a distant age. It's so valuable. Oh, throw it on the wood chipper. You're done with it. Here's another one that's slightly better. And so I really hope they get something that feels a little bit more ingrained with the lore, where you do have a single one that you can just progress with instead of being like, oh, I'm done with that one. It's like, you know, Gandalf didn't throw Glamdring aside just because he found a slightly better sword, right? Like, so I'm really excited to see what they come up with. And hopefully they manage to kind of unify the pre-100 and post-100 experience into a little bit more of a consistent one system. Or I guess it doesn't even have to be one system. Like, I don't mind that it changes from the wood chipper model to the imbued model. I don't know. I'm really intrigued by what they do. Okay, so Legendary Item Planner. Neat. Okay, that looks aesthetically really neat. Like, they've done a lot of work to make that look like the Legendary Item panel. That's very pretty. Oh, and I like that. It's like just add all the ranks. Yes, thank you, Little Redhead. Yeah, so they have talked about, Cordovan on his Court of the Rings stream has mentioned that, or maybe it was with the developer, but Summerlin? Right? Yeah, Renan, yeah. They have mentioned on streams that they are aiming at Gundabat coming out of time. They are working on a legendary item. They may or may not coincide. They're not necessarily linked together on the same time frame, from what I understand. But fingers crossed, that's a 2021 answer to the legendary item question. Okay, so sidetrack done. Awesome. Okay, so what was reported, Chromite mentioned that there are some buttons, the refresh plugins and possibly the reload Bootstrap. Let's see. Refresh plugins and reload Bootstrap buttons don't work. Okay. Well, let's take a look at that. Oh, I've got a lot of windows here. Let me close some windows down. This is like the programmer version of inventory maintenance. Sell, 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 put into shared storage. Yeah, that kind of thing. Okay. Bootstrap. So LOTRO plugin compendium. Does it know about Bootstrap? It does. All right, let's get that thing. Add it. And we'll do a refresh. And we can see that we got the Bootstrap and the Bootstrap reloader. Awesome. Now, one of the things that Chromite mentioned, oh, and Chromite is still chatting. Awesome. Thank you so much for all of your chat contributions. What is cool is he found a way to create a legendary item link in chat that showed all the changes you made to a non-existing legendary item in his plugin. When you finish your changes, you could just send this link in chat to someone and it would show up to them as a normal item tooltip when they load. That is fantastic. I don't have a good internal sense of how items and item linking work in LOTRO, and so that sounds amazing. It sounds really cool because oftentimes it feels like in the Lua framework, you can only do things within a certain constraint, and you could see how LOTRO wouldn't necessarily let you work with a fake item, right? So that sounds like an amazing feature. Cool. Yeah, I can see why that or something like it would be very useful. Okay. So Bootstrap and Bootstrap Reloader. And one of the things Chromite said was that the reload Bootstrap buttons don't work. And so seeing that there's a reloader here, this is sort of a classic problem with plugins, is it can be useful to reload the plugin. Maybe it's in a weird state. For instance, mini raid will sometimes be like, one of your fellowship members is at half health, and you look, and they're at full health. It has just gotten out of sync. And so reloading the plugin is just a really fast, easy way to fix the problem. Just unload, reload, done. But there is no Lua command that says, please unload me and then reload me. You can unload another plugin. You can load another plugin. You can unload yourself, but there's no unload and then reload. So what the common pattern is to have a reloader, which is to say when it loads, the reloader unloads the original. The reloader would unload Bootstrap, then reloader would load Bootstrap. And then Bootstrap would unload the reloader if it is loaded. And so it seems like they're following that pattern here. And so if I load Bootstrap, first of all, I get a window. That's cool. Oh, okay. And then Chromite also said there was a graphical background glitch. And I'm going to guess this double line here is what and over here is what you're talking about. So let me know. But I'm going to guess that these lines here are what's up. And if we look back at this UI, what's going on? What would be going on here? Maybe those were meant to be to the sides and they're just in the wrong place? I don't know. We'll have to look into that. Okay, so those lines are the glitch that you were looking at. Well, the good news is stopping something from being drawn is usually pretty easy if you can figure out what it is that is being drawn wrong in the first place. The harder thing is if it's part of something that's supposed to be there. Okay, and the refresh and reload buttons down here don't work. Okay, interesting. So pressing a reload Bootstrap loaded the Bootstrap reloader, but we can see it didn't do the rest of what we would expect, which is to say reloader should unload Bootstrap and load Bootstrap, and then Bootstrap should unload the reloader. So that's a pretty simple thing. Let's delve in and see what's going on here. And actually, while we're at it, we'll use an existing unloader reloader that I know works, which is minibar, Titan bar, something. We'll keep that in the back pocket. Depends how obvious. Oh, that's pretty. Can I drag that? Okay. Click and drag mouse wheel to change scale. Oh, that's cool. Okay, all sorts of fun possibilities. Okay, and we can see here it gives the menu for itself, but no other ones yet. And if I were to go ahead and add in D tracker, no. How do I, oh, add to menu, okay. How, okay, so the menu commands here are what shows up over here. Oh, okay, and then, so if I say that, okay, yes, neat. Okay, so if you type in a command, oh, neat. So if it's not already loaded, it loads it. And if it is loaded, it can run this command to show the window. And this is how you can tell it to launch. That's neat. Okay. And then it hides it. All right, Chromite, I can see why you like this thing. Cool. Let's just add one more just for our testing purposes. So we can see SocialGuy. Oh, interesting. Does the icon isn't matching. I wonder what's up with that. And then SocialGuy. Well, I don't actually know how SocialGuy launches. SocialGuy. Nope. SocialGuy. Nope. Social. All right. Let's go ask the help page, the SocialGuy. There may not be a chat command. Eh, that happens. Okay. Then we will hide it from the menu. Oh, remove and remove. Okay. So we have some stuff for testing purposes. Awesome. If I unload all, and then just checking chat here. I have a ton of plugins installed, but I don't want them all loaded when I log in or even during normal. Yeah, RT plugin, I definitely started playing with that a lot after we hit 130, and we're like, oh, we can do all these, and foul map is great. Okay, yeah, only loading when you need them makes sense, especially some of the ones that are a little bit bigger. I hear more map is pretty awesome though. Okay, the reloader. Interesting. So if I load Bootstrap Reloader manually, that didn't work. But if I load it, okay, yeah. Let's take a look. Let's dig into some code. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the Bootstrap folder. So we're going into plugins, and then this is under Aquendel. And then let's take a look. So I'll park that up there. Aquendel, the Bootstrap, we can see that it's going to plugin manager .main. Okay. And then in here, we can see that we have a handler for Bootstrap, and Bootstrap will handle show, hide, unload, reload. Okay, so we know what it's going to go to the app reload when it wants to reload stuff. Okay, cool. App is a plugin manager app, so reload. Oh. I'm seeing reload text here. I'm curious. Um, that's a funny comment. Remove for now. No clean way to exit the plugin. That's actually a thing that Titan Bar solves by having two helpers, one which is a reloader and one which is an unloader. And the unloader is just one half of it. It unloads, but it doesn't then reload. Um, so that is a current modern way of unloading a plugin is you load a different plugin that unloads you, but then that plugin is still loaded, right? So maybe that's what they meant by no clean way. But okay, so unload. What? Oh, reload, right. Okay. Was that a typo there? Bootstrap missing a T. Yes, in fact, it does say exit Bootstrap. That's good thing it's commented out because it's wrong. Excellent. Okay, let's go take a look at this reload function. So, window will be closed if open. Okay, so they're saying don't tell us about the window being closed. We're setting the handler to nothing. And then asking the plugin manager to load the plugin Bootstrap Reloader. Now we know this works because if we load Bootstrap and we say reload, we can see that the Bootstrap Reloader loads. Everything's good. So let's go take a look at the reloader. So the reloader we can see is looking at Equindel plugin manager reloader.lua. So let's take a look at that. So we can see it should, it has a function called reload. Oh, interesting. It's doing a different mechanism. What do they say? We can't unload the script state from which we were loaded if we haven't returned first. We would defer reloading to the next GUI update. Okay, interesting. So we say we have control. We've defined it as local, so it's going to get destroyed. Let's see if we can get rid of that. Cool, okay. So this may actually be a sign of something that worked once upon a time, but an update to Lua caused it to not work. So what I think is happening is they have declared a control, but they've declared it as a local variable. And so that control wants to be notified of updates. And in that update function, it uses this reload and then says, stop updating us. And so what could have happened is a Lua update could have changed how local file level variables were handled. Because right now, when the file is done, those variables go away. And I think the intent might have been to say this lasts as long as the plugin does, and that's not what's happening anymore. So if we go ahead and remove the local on the file here, and this isn't the first time I've seen that. We saw that, I've seen that somewhere else where it's a file level local got us into trouble. So if we just remove that, unload and reload Bootstrap, and then we can manually reload the reloader actually. And can we, okay, Bootstrap reloading. Cool. So if I do a /loc command just to clear that, reload Bootstrap reloading, version 1 started, Bootstrap autoloaded. Cool. Everything looks like it's good there. Now, question. Okay, the UI did not come back. It remembered that it was closed. Awesome. So you can see that it's working now because if everything's unloaded and we just load the reloader will unload Bootstrap if it's there, it's not, and then load Bootstrap, and then Bootstrap unloads the reloader. And that's exactly what we're seeing. That's the correct logic path for this. So that's actually really nice and simple. Thank you, Chromite, for giving me a problem I could solve in less than 45 minutes. So in this case, possibly due to a Lua change, the variable here was probably getting destroyed before it had a chance to receive an update from LOTRO, and so this code never ran. And by declaring it not local, we can ensure that it persists for the life of the plugin, which is going to be about 0.1 seconds anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Now, the local reload here is probably not a problem because it's going to be referenced right here. And we can see that it's working. We could be really careful and just get rid of that local. I don't think we need to. I think because we're referencing it right here, it's not going to be a problem. Okay, so that was a cool little change. So refreshing plugins doesn't work. Now this is actually a really interesting question. I don't know off the top of my head if it's possible to do the equivalent of this button. So what does this button do? This button is a two-parter. First, it tells LOTRO, go and relook through the plugins directory. And we can remember that the plugins directory inside your documents Lord of the Rings has some number of .plugin files inside of it. I haven't tested this. I don't know if Lord of the Rings Online will recurse down through all of the subfolders looking for these, or if it only looks for .plugins in the plugins folder or just one level down, that kind of thing. So it is looking for some number of .plugin files. Once it's found them, it looks through each of them for, at the very least, a version, an author, a reference to an icon. We can see DTracker here has a reference to an icon. SocialGuy has a really cool looking one. Not every plugin has one, but in order for Lord of the Rings Online to show it to you, it has to read that .plugin file. So it has to be a valid file. It reads it, it possibly finds a path to another image, and it loads that as well. So that's what we're doing. First, we're scanning for those files, and then opening them up and using the information in them to process this. But all of it is linked to that button. And the question is there a function in Lua that we can call that is the equivalent of pressing that button? Obviously, it existed once upon a time because this button exists, but is it still there? Let's find out. Next time. No, we'll do it right now. In the API documentation, this is low-level stuff. So this is in the Turbine namespace. There is a plugin manager. Let's go take a look. Hey, there's a refresh available plugins. That's cool. So refreshes the list of available plugins from disk. This does not force the unload of any plugins whose plugin definition file has been removed, but plugins whose definition file has been removed will be no longer visible in the list. Awesome. So it's just a visual update of this list, but internally. And so the next question is, how do you get the list once it's been updated? Well, we can see get available plugins. That's going to return a table containing a lot of this information. Cool. So the mechanisms look like they're there. Now, the documentation isn't always 100% corresponding with reality. So it's possible one or both of these functions don't work anymore or don't work the same way. So let's dig in and take a look. First of all, if we hit that refresh, oh, that's interesting. Let's give it something to refresh. So if I come in and I, in plugins, yep. So if I come in and I move these Turbine plugins out, and I come in and I hit the refresh button, we can see it refreshes over here, okay? And if we put them back and hit the refresh button, so that's what we want to see happen. Let's go ahead and move that. If we hit refresh, okay, cool. It seems to have done the thing. Chromite, you said this wasn't working. So if I put that back, I hit refresh, I'm seeing it updating here on the list and over there. So I'm going to say that I fixed it, and that's great. No, so Chromite, dig into it a little bit. See if you can reproduce a problem with the refresh button, because right now I'm seeing it working. I wouldn't. Chromite asks, "Is the reload a part of this?" I wouldn't think so, but you know that's really easy to figure out. It shouldn't be a part of this. Let me put it that way. But let me bring this back in. We can see the reloader doesn't work, and let's go ahead and redo this. So drag turbine out. Cool. Refresh. Oh my goodness! You're right. So it looks like they addressed the problem of reloading the list by reloading the plugin, which is fascinating because there's 3 parts to a plugin lifecycle. There's loading, running, and unloading. And during loading, possibly unloading also, but during loading and not running, there is a special plugin variable that gives you access to things. And maybe they were using that and they said, okay, the easiest way to just do this is use the reloader. So good point. By fixing the reloader, we are also fixing the refresh plugins button, which is just using the reloader. Let me load that. Okay, cool. So if I come in here and put that back, and hit refresh plugins, that is fascinating. Why would it use the reloader for that? And it says, since the plugin manager was made before plugin manager, documentation was probably not existing. Totally. The documentation, occasionally incorrect though it is amazing. And early plugin developers were heroes for just forging ahead with whatever they could work out. So kudos to them. That being said, I'm really curious what's happening with this refresh plugins buttons. Let's dig into that a second. In the Equindel, in the plugin manager, you know, I'm not sure where I would find that. So we can take advantage of the fact that we can do a directory search. Let's go ahead and add a folder. And we're going to go ahead and search within Equindel. And that'll let us just search for refresh plugins. Let's go ahead and find that. Cool. We can see that that is the text for the button plugins refresh. And that should have a handler somewhere, which is, not surprisingly, refresh plugins. Okay. So they are making use of, let me drag that over and resize it a little bit. They are making use of turbine.pluginmanager.refresh available plugins, which is exactly what I would expect them to do. But then they say, command configure, set command, fetch plugins, fetch commands. Okay, well, fetch plugins is probably the thing that we care about. The commands, I think that's its internal storage for each plugin. How do we launch the thing as reported to us by the user? Cool. I don't think we need to worry about that. Let's look at this fetch plugins. Get the list of existing plugins and set data of associated commands. Okay. Self.plugins. Okay. We don't know what that is yet. Plugin.autochange remove. Okay. What is plugin? Okay, that is in plugins. Okay, what is plugins? Just tell me what you are. Okay, going to go all the way to the top. Oh, maybe this is where we do it. See, this is what happens when I have no prep work, is I don't know what I'm doing. All right, well, we'll go ahead and go back to, oh, okay. So in the constructor, we definitely do that. And in fetch plugins, let's take a look at what we do here. So we have plugins, we have plugin items. Turbine plugins, we're getting the get available plugins here. You know, the funny thing is, if it weren't for the fact that we saw it break when we made that change, I wouldn't believe it based off of this. Let's go check the reload, calls to reload, right? So where is this happening? Button reload, naturally. And that's it, right? Reload. So button reload, app reload, and from a command line. So surely it is not actually. I am beginning to doubt myself. We're going to come back into the reloader. We're going to put that back to local. I'm going to unload on a reload. Okay, reload Bootstrap. We can see it's broken. Cool, okay. Let's go back in and make that move here. Refresh plugins. No, it's so, okay. I must have hit the reload Bootstrap button instead of the refresh plugins before. So, phew, I was driving myself crazy thinking through that. So this fix is not about that. So things are working. Chromite, when you get a chance on your machine, try doing something like that. You move a folder out of your plugins and then hit the refresh plugins and just to verify. No, I don't know if it says you know, I hit reload once. You know, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, but here we are. Okay, so unload. Cool, the reloader is not working. Move here. We can see the refresh button there is fine, but that didn't update over here, which is fine. But if we refresh, it does. And this is without that change. So give it a try, Chromite, and see if you can reproduce the problem on your end. Because right now, I think that will just drive me batty if I keep going down this road. Because it appears to work. They're using exactly the same mechanisms that I would expect them to do, right? They are using the refresh available plugins, and in fetch plugins, they are using the get available plugins function that we saw in the API documentation, right? Get available function returns an object. They're iterating through it. They're making a temporary copy of it for later lookup. Awesome. So they're doing all the things that I would expect them to do. So that's neat. Okay. Chromite says, I haven't tested this without the reload Bootstrap working. It was actually during a stream that Stein was doing. I found out these were broken. I was showing how to use Bootstrap. Okay, well, we'll start with that fix. Let's move on to the visual aspect of this, because that's something that I can definitely see is not quite right. I mean, it's kind of stylistic, right? It's kind of like stripes on the face, but let's see what we can do about that. So what is this? We're in Plugin Manager, and I don't see anything that says like window, right? That'd be kind of an obvious thing. It's not in main, so let's do a search for something we see here. So like Bootstrap space Plugin Manager, because that's the title. It will help if I spell it right. Manager, because that's the title of the window. Okay, it's an app. Neat. So that's in app.lua. And we can see that this is self in app, which is a window. Okay, cool. So let's see if we can find out what's going on there. In the constructor, we are setting up a bunch of UI elements. And we know that this is where that's happening because if we just say return here and unload and reload, oh, it does not like that. Okay. Yeah, that's fair because a bunch of other code assumes all of this stuff is there. But we can go maybe a little bit simpler, and anywhere where it says set parent, we can go ahead and comment that out. Okay, so we can see that is where all of the UI stuff is happening. But bonus, we can see those vertical lines are not there, which means it's happening in this function somewhere. Well, I say that. Is there any selection below here? Now, something that I often have turned off is this map on the right. And it can be visually a little bit cluttering, but you might be able to see the changes that are making on the left. You can see them echoed over on the right there. Cool. So that's pretty constrained here. All right, For Andrea says it's probably the background or near it. I agree. So we're going to go ahead and reload now that we've confirmed that that's where the UI is happening, and check things out. All right, so we have back color, blend mode. We do have some cool background textures here. All right, just out of curiosity, what if we just get rid of that background blend mode? Yeah, that doesn't work well at all, does it? Although it's pretty cool that you can see through. Yeah, we're not doing that. Okay. Auto the checkbox. Okay. Label name, label author, label version. Oh, that's a plugin item. Oh, I've gone off of the window. Okay. Turbine.ui.window is what I want. Oh, it's a LOTRO window. Of course it is. It has all that fancy stuff. Okay, so background. Okay. Let's see what we have without that background. Okay, so we can definitely see that the background is part of what's going on. Because if we don't have that background, and in fact, just for my reference, let me snip that. Whoopsie, rectangular snip that. Unfortunately, you can't see the snipper in action because it freezes the screen. But we'll save that off for a moment, come back in, and reinstate the background. Okay, so this is what's going on side by side. Let's see where that's coming from. So we can see this is a decorated container, first of all. So that's question number one, is what is a decorated container doing? For Andreas is saying the background doesn't fill the whole window either, which is very true. Although it does fill up to here. What's going on? Okay, it does stop. You are correct. It does stop before we hit the end. But those lines there, is that the pattern starting over again? It doesn't look like it. Okay, we'll dig into it more. So we have two things. We have a grainy blue, and I'd like to find out where that is. So we'll go ahead and do a search. We can see grainy blue is, well, that's exciting. All right, well, so it's going to see some GIMP after all. Maybe. That grainy blue looks like it is a reference. And one of the things that we can get is a skinning reference. I think I may have blown it away. So let's go ahead. LOTRO interface skin update 25, something like that. There we go. Official skinning pack. And this is neat just because it does have a lookup for a lot of IDs where you can kind of say, what is this? Come on. There we go. So if this is what I was thinking, oh, this is not what I was thinking. I just want the lookup table. Yes, there we go. Skin dictionary. Yes, ThoroLord did make a content browser to get graphics. I'll grab that in a minute. Let me pull out the skin definition and see what's going on here. All right, that's not it. This is why I try to never delete anything, because then I can't find it again. Nope, none of these are what I was remembering. I apologize. I'm going off in the wrong direction. Okay, so the reference being made is... Let's see. Oh, I can't find ThoroLord directly. That's sad. Okay, list ThoroLord's interfaces. Yes, please. So, asset browser. Neat. All right, we can refresh plugins. Asset browser. We can go ahead and add that to the menu and launch. Great. But what I don't know is, can you actually then search for a specific one? And filter by age. I don't see a way to do that. So if that's the one you were thinking of, we'll pass. All right, ThoroLord. But it's absolutely true. You can just write a plugin that loads an asset. If you have a specific ID like this, you can just load it and say, what is this? All right, so Granny Blue, we'll come back to that. Now we also have a decorated container. Now this is equindle.ui and a decorated container. So what's going on here? It takes a table of resources and parameters. All fields are optional. Okay, so we are passing in Granny Blue, and we saw that that was just center. Okay. I was just noticing that this is resizable. I'm wondering if that gave us any clue to what was going on. Okay. Whoops. Sorry, I keep going to the wrong direction. Now, this is... Yes, the skin dictionary does sound a little rough. Now, this is a point, though. If you wanted those lines gone and you were comfortable getting rid of the nice swirly pattern as well, you can just stop using the background and the lines do go away. That may or may not be a useful solution, but that is a solution, right? Okay. So what is a decorated container? Well, we know we have a center. We're going to set the background. Center. Okay. So it is doing a set background. That makes sense. What else are we doing? What if this were left? What does that look like? That's different. Oh, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. So the pattern stops. And if we go to the right, okay, the pattern stops, but over there. Did the snipping tool lie to me? Oh no, that was the old one. So that was center. Oh, okay. It is tiling. Oh, that looks pretty good when it's tiled. Okay. So it's tiling, but there's a bit of a border between them. Interesting. Yeah. So we have a vertical stretch like wallpaper, and then the wallpaper has not been done very nicely there. But this could actually be a case where in LOTRO they could have come in and, because it's their asset, and they could have been like, okay, we're going to add little lines here for whatever purpose, and then the plugin is just sad. Okay, so self, what's going on here? We have, there is a stretch mode. So, is that a thing that we know about? Let's come on in here. Nope, that's not the documentation. Let's come on in here. What are we? We are control. Great. So if we come into control, is that... That doesn't seem to be a thing. Okay. Show me your secrets. Yeah. Krulos says maybe when it used to be smaller and width in the background used to be in line with that. Could be, although this plugin hasn't been updated according to the LOTRO interface in the last decade. So it's much more likely that SSG came in and did something with their asset. And so that's an example of if you're going to pull something from the game, like a cool little background like this, it can be worthwhile to figure out how to go ahead and extract it out and put it into your own resource file so you have control over it. Because LOTRO, Setting Stone Games, they can come in and change any of these assets. It's theirs, right? If they want to change something. That being said, now I'm curious about, does this thing also tile vertically? It kind of looks like it does, but there's no seam there. Where is this thing used in game? Is it like wallpaper? Is it some hobbit's house? Iron Wolf wonders if the high-res updates are involved. Well, Carmite, do you remember when it broke? Okay, surely. Where are we? That's control. What about window? I know I've seen stretch somewhere, but I can't remember where. Decorated container is a control. But what is top left? Top left is a new control, or the result of calling the new control function. All right. Dare I ask? Function new control? Nope. There's no function new control. All right, so let's just find me the new controls. Well, what is a new control? This is exciting. Okay. Equals new control. I am befuddled. What is that? Fascinating. All right, Chromite says high-res was out before this. So, I mean, that narrows it down, right? Okay, well, I am not finding new control, which, oh, there we go. Oh, it's a locally declared function, of course. Okay, so stretch mode, I think, I've seen this before. I think this is an undocumented function in the API documentation, and that's why we're not seeing it. Let's double check with the documentations that's on the wiki. I believe it's the same stuff at this level, but we'll double check. So if we come into control, yeah, we can see stretch mode is known to exist, but it's not part of the documentation. Okay, so center, we know that stretch mode is useful in some cases. This is a little bit of shooting in the dark here, but what if we did something here too? I don't think this is going to be right. I'm just kind of curious at this point what's going to happen. So we've seen two variables here. So stretch mode 0, I think, is the default, but let's come on in. Yeah, that's not helpful. And then stretch mode 2. Oh, that's awesome. Don't do that. Okay. And I assume, oh, that's cool. All right, I'm more doing this to amuse myself at this point. This is not actually an effective use of, oh, that's cool though. Okay, so don't do that. Okay, and the other thing we can look at is self.center. We know that's a new control, and we've seen that new control is a function, parent, mouse visual, blend mode, back blend mode, and we return the control. So I guess the real question is, where do we determine the size of this thing? We have this, so we know the size is width. Okay. Out of curiosity, what if we don't resize it? I assume that will not look good. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's see. You can see Bootstrap was last worked on in 2011. That's Rise of Isengard era. High-res was quite a while before that. Oh, cool. Hello, person in chat who thinks runekeepers are awesome. I have not figured out how to incorporate a runekeeper into my play. I mean, they're cool, and I like their runestones. I'm glad when other people play them. That's really kind of it. Okay, so we have something that is being stretched to the size of the parent, which is good. And we can actually see, if we were to say width divided by 2 here, then if we came back in and loaded that, right, the almost no problem. We still have a little bit on the left, which is interesting. But the bit on the right where it tiles doesn't do that. You know what? There are people out there who know more about LOTRO plugins than me. So, LOTRO plugin. Oops. Let's see what other people have talked about. So, this is a LOTRO interface post. Dun, dun, dun. I'm just curious if there were any other obvious references here. Because it feels like that's really what we want. We do want that to stretch. We also want it to be behind everything. So what was happening that was objectionable? Let's go back and take a look at that. Because it does feel like a stretch is appropriate, although, yeah. So stretch mode. we saw that 0, I think, was exactly what's currently happening. Yes, no stretching. Makes sense. A stretch of 1, that's interesting. That's really zoomed in on the pattern. It makes me wonder how many pixels there are in that pattern. And then 2 was really looking stretched vertically, but not horizontally. Actually, that doesn't look half bad, but why is it on top of everything? Oops. Well, that sure didn't work. I didn't think it would, because why would it suddenly become on top of things? But I was curious. I assume that just trying numbers is not really going to be helpful here, but since there's no documentation on that, it just made me curious. Okay, so enough of that. So what are we seeing here? We're seeing something that is X wide being put into a larger container. A thing, as someone mentioned, we could just make the window less wide. That's not really very optimal to me. Ideally, we would have a background that doesn't need to be tiled, or the tiling wouldn't produce a gap. Oh. Neat, thanks, Moobot. This game is T for teen. Okay, so if I knew more about the stretching models in here, I might have a better answer. I mean, we know the cause. We know the cause. What is a solution to the cause, other than just getting rid of the background? Okay, what else is happening with self.center? We know it's a control. We know it's got some blend stuff going on. I don't know enough about the blending to have a sense here. So what is blending? Set blend. Well, that's not very helpful. All right, do we have a blend mode? We do have a blend mode. Okay. Over there's a source and destination, performs a blend. This is all about blending and not about stretching. So I don't think it's going to be any use to us, and we can safely ignore it. So what else is going on with self-center? We know that the background is being set. That wasn't there. We do know that someone at some point was overriding the blend mode, but that's just the same as the default at this point. And we know its position is going to 0, 0, and the size of its container. Now, the container is this decorated container here. So what if it is maybe something we can make bigger? What if we could go ahead and say, make that 600? Does that do anything? Well, not in a good way, but yes, it does do something. So we can see that it was stretching out beyond the, so we can see they very carefully stopped it before it starts covering up the corner, whatever we call those, little flare on the corner. Yeah, Chromite says, it'd be fine if it was just a solid background. It's just that the lines are distracting. Sure, I get that. Iron Wolf says, is the enabling stretching breaking the parent size and crushing all the controls on top of it? I don't have a good answer for that. It shouldn't, right? But I mean, a very useful plugin would be just showing the different stretching modes. And let's see. There's an examples. Do any of you do stretching? Let's see. Content alignment. So if you're doing plugin development, one of the neat things is there is an examples from LOTRO where you can just be like, okay, show me the different alignments. And this is exactly what I would like to see for stretching, is show me the different stretches. Though here's one for blend modes, actually. Oh, stop that. Blend mode, start. That's wild. Okay, so you can change the color, and then you can see all these different blend modes. That's wild. So that's exactly what I would like to see, except for stretching. So that may be a good enhancement to do one of these times. Okay, so not that though. So we have a decorative container. The container is just wide enough to not cover the parent window. So a solution, Chromite, and this isn't a good solution, but a solution would be just to change the decorated size to stop right before those lines, right? You still have the line on the left, which is a little sad, but you wouldn't have the right, although it's still kind of distracting that the background stops and also the background was transparent and now you don't have anything. That's not ideal, totally. And then, is there anything else about self.background that would be informative here? Just searching through, that's not, goodness, a lot of backgrounds. Okay, not really. So it is just a decorated container with a parent size and position. And the decorated container, as we've seen here, is getting called. The constructor sets that decoration, pays attention to the size being changed. What's a do layout? Okay, and this is where whatever is in here gets resized appropriately. Cool, okay. So I would say the easiest solution to your problem, Chromite, is just to not use that background. Instead, each of these sections, well, most of them will be somewhat transparent, but it won't be distracting in the same way. I will assume there isn't a way to do your own tiling, cropping to the left and right a few pixels, not show the brown line. That's a point, or at least that is a point. Hang on. So now a problem is, okay, so if you want to do that for now, unless we find a better solution, line 214 of app.lua is where the decorated container is parented. You can simply comment that out with a double dash, and then any code that refers to this doesn't break. It can try to interact with it, but it never gets drawn because you have to be parented through some hierarchy to a top level window. And as long as it's not, it doesn't get drawn. That being said, that's a really interesting idea, Ironwolf, because it's the set background is really the thing. But when we do the positioning, you are right. If we did the position as -1, does that change things? Yes, you're absolutely right. So a question is, how wide is this? Now, you would really need a center and then a center more for the extra side. So this is a more complicated change. But yeah, that is a question, is how wide is this thing? And we can answer that with this set width here. So before, 350 was enough to lop it off. So let's go ahead and do 400 and see what that looks like. Not quite, we're almost there. So 390? Okay, somewhere in there. 395, we'll do a little binary search. Too much. All right, 393. Awesome. And I assume 394, oops, is going to be, I had a key to comment that out apparently. I assume 394 will be just too large. No, okay, maybe. 393 looks great. Okay, so we know that 393 is the number of pixels. I'm just going to save that off. But we do want that to be 512, I think it was. So in the decorated container, we would need to change this in some way for the decorated container to have a sense. Like we could pass in a width here of whatever it was, 393. And that's maybe something. But just in this case, could we write some code to do some tiling? Maybe. So self.center2 equals new control. If t.center is not equal to nil, then end. Cool. And then self.center2.back, colon, set background, t.center. Awesome. That's another one we're going to care about right now because that's what we're doing. If there was a solid color, then we wouldn't be in this problem. Okay, so the other thing is when we move, then if self.center2 does not equal nil. Oh, all right, let's be consistent. I won't use the parentheses. And self.center2 set position of 393, 0, and self.center2 set size equal to self get width minus 393 and self get height. And then this one, we actually want to cap out at 393. Maybe. Let's see if that does what we want. So close. All right, because we used backing off the left side to cut off. But if we said self.center set z order to be 2 and self.center set z order to be 1, then maybe that would cover it, right? Did I not back up enough? Okay, so like that is a solution. That is not a good solution because we're editing a library file here. So if I wanted to push that out, I would want to have a better concept of passing in, like, this is the width of the thing we're putting in the center, and we need you to tile manually because it's not a tile-friendly thing. So this is really fascinating. Ironwolf, thank you for the idea of doing the manual tiling because this is very satisfying to see it like this, and it makes me wonder if how much we can edge this over. Nope, that is one too many. Okay. So yeah, it's really, really pleasing to see that we can do the manual tiling here, and it works fine, right? Like that does not look bad. You can see, you can just see right here on that line that is the splice line, but it's fine. It works great. I would hesitate before pushing out this change to the decorated container file. I would want to think about a way to make that nicer for any other consumers of this, because this would just break anyone else who did want the normal tiling behavior. That being said, it would be very easy to add a function to decorated container that says set manual tiling equals true. And then if we're doing manual tiling, then we would just need to know the width. And that is a problem because I don't think there's a way to ask LOTRO, how big is this resource? How wide is it? How tall is it? You just have to know. You'll actually see comments in a lot of plugin files that are like, this is a 32 by 32 thing that we're referencing here, or this is a 64 by 64 in comments, because you need to know that information. LOTRO, I don't think, has a way to access that from within the plugin. So that's where I would want to lean for this, is adding a couple of extra functions that say, here's what the width of the asset is. We just have to manually know that. And here's how big of that border is. We've seen it's like 2 pixels, 1 pixel. And yes, please manually tile to obscure that border. I think that's out of scope for tonight. We're already over time, but that might be something that we could look into. On the other hand, we can just comment out the background and Chromite will be happy. So for Chromite's purposes, run with that for now, and we'll maybe revisit this and see if we can have a little bit nicer of this. That being said, we could go ahead and get a change in for that read loader, and so we can start a patch going. So, lotrointerface.com. This is the Bootstrap. Awesome. I feel like some of these already are there, so I'm going to close those down. Cool. So it's time to add a patch. We need to stage up the changes. Now, in this case, there's only one file, but it is nice to double check that we didn't accidentally change something. So same thing as before. I've told it to download this file. We're going to go ahead and extract that out. So extract, bring that over, extract. Iron Wolf says, yeah, my intent was more to see if you could hack a result that looked right. Actually doing it right is something else. Well, exactly. And that was very satisfying to see that, yes, we could hack something in that as a proof of concept means that we could do it for realsies sometime in the future. Okay, Aquindle, we're going to go ahead and compare these two. Naturally, we should see something pretty similar. We can see the read loader, that is the one change, and decorated container, here's the stuff we're not shipping right now. So the only thing we need here is that. Cool, okay. So let's go ahead and in our documents, plugin long releases, let's go ahead and get that out into the world. Then Chromite can download it, or you could just manually do that one change. But anyone who's looking to fix that, they can download a surprisingly small fix. All right, this is for Bootstrap Plugin Manager. Let me go ahead and copy that so I don't miss a T. Bootstrap Plugin Manager version, and that was 1.4. That's a lot of stuff in just 4 versions. 1.4.1. Awesome. And we're going to want a folder of the same name to track that change. Okay. Great. So in the plugins directory, we can see this is Aquindle. So we want to create that over here. And then in there, we have plugin mj, as they say. And inside plugin mj, we have read loader, and that's all we need. And we can go ahead and open this up, double check that we see the change. We do see the change. Great. And then finally, we need to package this up in the zip file. So I'll open up yet another window. Go to Documents, go to Plugin Long Releases, and in Bootstrap Plugin Manager, we'll go ahead and drag Aquindle over. Perfect. All right, now we can go ahead and submit. This is going to be a new one, and it's going to go into LOTRO patches. Now, we need a zip file. Great, we just made a zip file. Oh, thank you. Iron Wolf is catching me before I make a mistake. I appreciate that. He is pointing out that there is a bootstrap.plugin file that we need to update. Otherwise, we're going to be very sad. So come on in here, make it 1.4.1, And we'll go ahead and include that over here. Awesome. Although, funny thing, we're actually not changing that one. We're changing the read loader. Oh, whatever. It's fine. Read loader 1.4.1. It might be that we're going to come back and do some other changes for that background. So I feel pretty comfortable changing both of those. Cool. So those are 1.4.1. We have the plugin manager readloader.lua, and that's all. So we can go ahead and put those in the right place, and we'll be much happier with the result. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and remove that from the zip file. In the zip file, we want a quinto with the .plugin files, and we're good to go. Back to LOTRO interface. We're going to re-choose. In fact, let me just refresh this page. I don't want to have that old one. Bootstrap plugin manager, awesome. Manage images. I mean, I don't know what to say, but sure, let's do that. Snipping tool, and I want to make a new snip of the, oh no, that's the wrong one. Reload Bootstrap, there we go. This feels kind of silly, but why not? So we're going to call it this. Reload button.png. Okay, so we're going to manage that image. We're going to go ahead and upload it. And this button works again. Or something. Maybe it's getting late and I'm getting punchy, but I don't have better words for that. Okay. So this interface title is Bootstrap Plugin Manager version 1.4 reload button fix. There we go. 1.4.1 and description. Same thing. I'm just going to lift one of my other descriptions because that is easier. So we're going to go ahead and come on in, search for opaque, and opaque quest tracker. Again, if you can, just hit the edit button. Gives you all the BB code. I think someone said it was all the markdown type stuff. All right, introduction. That's going to be way shorter. This patch fixes the reload bootstrap button. Okay, installation, unzip. Well, that's not going to be great. Can I? No, it doesn't like that. Okay. All right, you will get a folder called that. Move it into your documents. Oh, you know, I should have gone for the patch. So, HunterFocus. There we go. That's a better one to steal the code from. Iron Wolf says, I may want to end. Well, want to is relative. I will come to an end soon. How would you source manage this? Excellent question. Don't let me stop before I answer that, but let me go ahead and get this patch out. Okay, fix the following bugs in Bootstrap Manager version 1.4. Reload Bootstrap button didn't stopped. Did not work. Okay, no note there. Installation first. Cool. This is where we link back. So go ahead and install this. Bootstrap Plugin Manager. Version 1.4. This patch only includes the necessary blah, blah, blah. You can use plugin compendium or drag the, and here's where I want to copy paste. Nope. copy paste that so I don't misspell it, or just unzip and drag that into that. It will also contain that, which you should drag. You'll be prompted to overwrite files. Answer yes. Great. Okay. When it find Bootstrap plugin manager, verify that it is 1.4.1. If it is 1.4, then you have not properly installed the patch. Click load. Blah blah blah. Cool. History. Again, we're just going to have this one. Oops. We're on 1.4.1. Fixed reload bootstrap button. Cool. That's pretty good. Space after manager. Where did I do that? Thank you. Awesome. Lovely. Cool. Do you want others to patch your patch? Awesome, I do. I have read these things. All right. Last chance to find my typos, Iron Wolf, or anyone else. Cool. And you can always come back in and edit that text. It's totally fine. So if we come back in and go to my interfaces, we can go ahead and find SocialGuy. No. Where'd it go? Oh, there. It's pending. Oh, neat. Okay. Well, I guess you can't edit it quite yet. Okay. But we can see it's uploaded, pending. Great. You're on your tablet. Well, cool. Thanks for fighting the good fight to watch on your tablet. Okay, so you asked a great question. I, on this stream, have been a strong proponent of source control, but you haven't seen me use any of it today. Part of that has been we've been doing really simple fixes, but part of that has been me being lazy. So your question is great. How would I manage this in source control? And the answer is, there are two ways that I see for that. The first is you could have your source control files somewhere else, and you just copy these over when it's time to take that snapshot, when it's time to commit. But you're doing your changes here, and you just have to remember to do that. And the other, and this is the way I do, is to have this file be, this folder, Equendo, would be the root of your repository. And to show you what that looks like, let's do that real fast. Oh, someone's coming into my party. Okay, so let's see. Let me open up a GitHub page and make sure there's nothing too weird on there before I stream it. Oh, haha, I'm gonna need to be in a different profile for that. Just a moment. All the exciting stuff is happening just off stage, right over there. Cool. Okay. Let me do new. Okay. So, creating a new repository. If you haven't tried it, GitHub is a pretty user-friendly way to do this. So in this case, repository name. I am only interested in it being for Bootstrap right now, but I think you may be able to change the repository names later. I don't worry about getting it wrong. So we're just going to call it Bootstrap Plugin Manager. Oh wait, no, we really want the repository. We do want the repository name to match this folder. It's going to make life easier. So I'm going to make a folder called Equendo. Description. This is LOTRO developer behind Bootstrap plugin manager. I think there's a hyphen in there. Great. So I'm going to mark that as a private repo, and we're just going to create that right there. Awesome. Now, to make life easier, I'm going to, oh, be sad, I can't do that. Let me go ahead and unload these files and see if I can slide that out of the way there. All right, who's got that directory open? There we go. Okay, So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and use the source control here. Where did I put it? There we go. I'm going to go ahead and use my tool of choice, which is fork. So I'm going to copy this path, open up fork, and I'm going to clone a new repository. It's going to be an empty repository. Where'd it go? There we go. Okay. No. There we go. So now a nice thing, Fork's very good about seeing that you have something on your clipboard that looks like a Git path or a repository path. So it already knows that I want to do this. And where do I want to put it? Well, I want to put it into Lord of the Rings Online. This is the path, and we're going to clone it right there. Awesome. And we can see that as a part of that cloning process, we now have the Aquindel folder. So what do we want to do with that? We want to go ahead and put, let me move that Aquindel 2 right out of there. We want to go ahead and put the normal 1.4 code there. And to do that, we're just going to come back in and get the, it thinks it's already installed, doesn't it? Haha. Bootstrap plugin manager, let's go ahead and add that. Now, that just put them all back into place here. And what's neat is now that is the 1.4 change set. No, I'm clicking the wrong thing. So we can see all these files, and we can say, great, we want to take that snapshot, and this is the initial, the 1.4. Sorry, I'm questioning myself. Yes. This is the 1.4 version. Awesome. So we have that snapshot, and now we can put our changes back in. Where's my temp? There's my temp. Okay. So, not that one. So that's actually pretty easy to do. We have an Aquindel over here. We have an Aquindel over here. And my apologies if that's not the correct pronunciation of that name. If anyone does know, please do correct me. And so we can see here the differences between the 1.4 and the 1.4.1. We've got the reloader differences. Love it. Let's take it. We've got the decorated container changes. We're not going to keep those in that way, but we do want to have them. And then we have the 1.4.1 changes to both of those .plugin files. Perfect. So we can see no other changes. We're good to go. And if we come back into source control, now we can see, great, that's the change for 1.4.1 that we saw, removing the local. And those are the .plugin. And now we can say this is the version 1.4.1 fix for reload button or something. Is that what we did? Yeah, the reload button. Reload Bootstrap, excellent. For reload Bootstrap button. And we can go ahead and commit those. And if you're using source control, go ahead and take advantage of the tags. This 1.4 there and the 1.4.1. You can always delete those later, but they're not bad. Now we do want to go ahead and remember to push these on out. That's part of the whole point of source control, is get it off your machine before it dies. Awesome, and we can see the local changes. Really? Why do you think those are different, or that different? They're really not. Hang on. What's going on here? Why do you think those are different? They're not. They're not that different. Okay, something's going weird there. But that's why we also have external comparison tools, just in case things get weird. And we can see these are just the changes we made before. They're not ready for prime time, but we do have them. So if I were to want to do more work right now, your source control, especially if it's backed by Git, will have some sort of staging ability. Stashing ability. So we can just stash that and say, hacky tiling code. And we can see it's not there anymore, right? it's not in this unstaged area. And if we come back in and reload the Bootstrap, those lines are showing back up. But it is stored locally on my machine as the hacky tiling code. And it's not too large to display. And if I wanted to go ahead and bring it back in, I can do that whenever I want to. So that's a way to manage. I'm in the middle of something, I'm not ready for it, shove it aside. So, nope, not stage, stash. So, that's the manual tiling proof of concept. Cool. So that is how I manage patches. And I said last time I haven't done any patches. I'd forgotten. I have done a patch for the Minstrel Buff plugin. And this is exactly the same thing I did there, which is go ahead and plant the root of your source control folder to be the folder that you are patching. It's a little weird because my source control repository is now called Aquendel, but it means when I clone it into position here, everything is ready to go. Now, there are some hidden files here. So if I do view hidden files, you can see there's a .git folder here. That's fine. Lord of the Rings Online does not care about that. That is where all the source control information is going to be found. I don't know. Can we go in there? Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff in here. Don't mess with that, obviously. You will mess up your source control if you do that. But it's there. It's fine. LOTRO doesn't care about it. And so that means we can do our development in place. You can make code changes in place, reload, see them working, and commit right from there. You don't have to remember to copy them off into another location. You don't have to remember to do anything special. You're working in place. Okay. Ironwolf says, so the biggest part is just knowing that you don't need to package all the files when sending it to the LOTRO interface. Yeah, when you're doing a patch, you only need to send the files that changed. And that's because the patching is just overwriting complete files. There's no partial file update going on. It's just this file is newer and it overwrites this other one. And that's why patches are usually targeted towards a specific version. My 1.4.1 patch is targeted towards 1.4 because then it is just those very specific changes, but it's delivered by squashing the old file. And so if someone was trying to apply my 1.4.1 patch to a 1.5 version, that could give very inconsistent results because there might be 1.5 changes that I've just reverted back to 1.4. And so that can do anything from disabling features to just messing everything up depending on how interrelated the things that I removed are with everything else. And so, yeah, if that's why every time I have a patch, I say, this is for this version, you have to use that version. And that's why, because we're not doing anything more clever than this file replaces that file and done. Let's see. So fork, Ironwolf says, I assume there's a function in fork to list the different files. Yeah, once you have things in source control, you can do things where you can say what has changed here. Now, the standard way of doing this would be to create a branch and then to create a pull request, and that pull request shows you what's changed. I am confident there's a way to do it to say what's different here. Let's see, save as patch. No. I'm confident there's a way to mimic that behavior, but I don't know what it is without doing the pull request here. Let's see. Okay, so if I went ahead and checked out the initial one and then I said compare to local changes, I would probably get that similar thing. And so if you had multiple commits, you could probably do it that way. Yes. So let's see. You're a Git noob. Okay, yeah. I came to Git from Mercurial, so I sometimes still feel like I'm more comfortable in Mercurial or HG than I am in Git. But I've been using Git in my day job for a while now, and so it's coming along. And so If you're used to the idea of branches, you can be working on like the 1.4.2 branch, and then you have the develop, or sometimes the mainline release is sometimes called master. But whatever your mainline release is, you're working in a side branch, and then eventually you're like, okay, I'm going to bring those changes back in. This matters a lot more if you're working on a larger team and it's not just you, but it still works conceptually to say, okay, my changes over here are isolated, and when it's time to bring them back in, I can see all of what's changed as a single coherent, this is the change set. Even if it's been one commit, if it's been a dozen or 100 commits, all of it gets wrapped up into a nice pretty bow. And in the Git world, that's a pull request, which is I'm trying to pull those changes into this other branch. Now, if you're doing really fancy stuff, you can even have a system where someone else has to review your changes and someone else has to sign off that they've looked at them. And yes, I approve this pull request. But in the single person model, it's really just about making it a little bit easier for you to say what has changed. Now, the easy version of this, or the source control-less version of this, is you just have your changes in one place and the thing that you're modifying, version 1.4 in another, and you do a manual file comparison, right? You don't need source control for that. It just is helpful. Do asks, do you work for SSG? I do not. I am just a person who really likes both LOTRO and the plugin system in LOTRO. So I stream about LOTRO plugins, but I do not work for SSG, and I don't have any special knowledge beyond just listening to their developer streams and Court of the Rings, where he talks about what he's allowed to talk about, and those little bits and pieces. And so when I talk about plugins, I'm purely from a user side and from a developer in the player world, but not on the SSG world. And so if anyone from SSG is listening, we should talk about improvements to the Lua system sometime, but that's a different conversation. Cool. Oh, thank you, Little Redhead, for getting Moobot to chime in there. Yeah, so if you have questions or concerns about plugins, we can definitely talk about them, although that's going to be on a future stream because we're just coming into wrapping up here. But if you have technical support issues beyond turning it off and on again, Do asks, does SSG use that old game design of Notepad C++? At that point, I have no clue what their development tools are, though I suspect they're more sophisticated than what I've been showing here on today's stream. I've been using Sublime Text, which is a nice but basic text editor. Let's see. So this is Sublime Text here. I was dragging my notes in. I didn't need that. It's better than Notepad, certainly, but it's not nearly as good as more professional tools, Visual Studio Code, all these other things. So I would be very surprised if anyone at SSG was using a tool as basic as Sublime Text for anything more than a nice text editor. Yeah, do ask them. Scenario sometimes will talk about some of the tools they use for world building, and he might have insights that I cannot answer. Thank you, Little Redhead, for pointing that out. I keep forgetting that he's going to be streaming again tomorrow. No worries, dude. You will be able to watch the video both on VOD replay here on Twitch, and also it'll get uploaded to the Life Beyond the Shire YouTube channel sometime in the next couple of days, probably. Okay. In fact, let's see. YouTube Life Beyond the Shire. There we go. That one. That's how you know you're in the right place. There's a playlist here for LOTRO plugins. You can, well, let's not play that. And you can find them all here. Awesome. Okay, so this has been a lot of fun. We started off looking at the SocialGuy plugin and fixing the list of deeds that show up in blue here for the social deed titles. Then we started looking at the Bootstrap plugin manager, both to make the reload Bootstrap button work and also to figure out why these lines are here. Einro said, thank you for taking the time to teach beyond what's needed to accomplish stuff for your show. You're very welcome. I am fascinated by all things plugin development. So I'm glad both that I get a chance to talk about all of this stuff and that a non-zero number of you all are interested in listening to it. And that's fabulous. I'm really glad to have you all here. Yeah, do ask, will this go on YouTube? Yes, it will. It'll be here, and you can find it there. Search for Life Beyond the Shire, plugin along. Here, Life Beyond the Shire, plugin along. Yeah, so search for Life Beyond the Shire, plugin along on YouTube. You'll find it there. Oh, and awesome, Little Redhead has put a link to the website as well. Chromite, thank you so much. I'm definitely don't want to misrepresent plugin development as always being super easy. Sometimes you just have to dig in and be like, why is this happening? And that happens. Cool. Oh, thank you, Eldeth. Welcome back to the end of the stream. So we are wrapping up here. So if you have any final questions while I take a drink and look at chat where Moobot is saying things, do go ahead and type them in here, and otherwise we'll catch them next week. Oh, neat. Did Moobot update? It used to be when you'd do something like Wednesday, it'd be like today's streamers or whatever. Ah, that's cool. Yay, Moobot. A final question from Do. Do you know a plugin that can showcase every quest in a map zone so it can help with deeds? Interesting question. Not yet. I know there's some chatter on the developer side about that kind of idea, but I don't know of any plugin that's actively available. There is a deed plugin called Deed Tracker. We'll go ahead and load that up right now. And so it doesn't help you with completing all of the quests, but it does show you all of the deeds and organizes them in a more hierarchical fashion. So you'll see in the deed tracker, this character hasn't done any, sorry. Never mind, you won't see that. In the deed tracker, deeds are sorted by category, lore, slayer, explorer, that kind of thing, and then alphabetically. And it can be kind of hard to get a sense of what's going on. And so the deed tracker plugin shows them in the hierarchical sense. So to finish Explorer of Breland, for instance, you have to finish Barrow Downs, Old Forest, Ruins of Breland, Laurel Cardoon, etc. All of those. And so, for instance, if I did that, I finished Barrow Downs and Old Forest and Ruins and Lore and History and Flowers, automatically that would finish off Explorers of Breland. Now, a useful thing for Deed Tracker is it monitors your quest completion chat, and if it sees that you complete one of those, it will mark it off automatically for you. And so if it sees, oh, you finished Explorer of Breland, it'll know by definition you must have finished all those other ones. It'll just mark them all off for you. And so from a deed perspective, there is a plugin that will help you with most every deed that's currently obtainable in Lord of the Rings. And so if you're someone who's like, oh yes, I've already completed all of Breland, great, just mark it and move along. Although now, because of the both, there are some deeds that aren't covered under Deeds of Breland, and the Wildwood now shows up there. Deeds of Breland is not as completed as it once was. So this is divided up into the same view as you would get in the deed log. So you can see at the top here, skirmish, instances, hobbies, the war, Classers, Epic, Eriador, Ravanian, Gondor, Mordor. So you'll find things in the same way. And you'll also see the deed tracker will tell you how many LOTRO points you can get by completing all the deeds in an area, how much virtue experience, and also at the top here, how much LOTRO points altogether. So this character, it looks like, could get 11,000 LOTRO points by completing everything. Now that's not going to happen anytime soon, but Breland, 300, Shire, 150, Eredlune, 185. And so if you're someone who likes to do free-to-play, this can be a way to kind of hunt down those LOTRO points where you can go ahead and farm a few of them to get that return to Lalia's market with, what is it, 2 Mithril coin? Which is not that expensive. It's like 20 LOTRO points and bam, done. Yes, the deed tracker, one of the things is it will show you deeds regard. Now, it doesn't know how far you've progressed. So for instance, Weathertop Exploration, if you enable the experimental tooltips, it'll tell you for Weathertop Exploration what you need and where they are. Oh, that's funny. It's not. So it'll tell you what it is and where they are, but it doesn't know which ones you've already done. And so if you've already discovered Echad Sul and Weatherfoot, but not Gloomhollow and Weathertop, Deed Tracker does not know that. And so this is a tool that you use in concert with the in-game deed log. And so, but if you're trying to find that one thing in Defenses of the Lonelands, remember that you can tear off tooltips with, I believe, the D key. And then if the tooltip is too tall, you can then scroll up and down. Awesome. Yeah, check it out. Give it a try. Someone's asking a link for the compendium. Let's see. Plugins. Yeah. The LOTRO plugin compendium, I highly recommend it. It knows how to install things. So for instance, if I wanted to install the Waypoint plugin, highly recommended. I can go ahead and hit the add button and it's here. I hit the refresh button in game and I can go ahead and load that on up. So that's a really quick overview of the deed tracker. It's fun. I like it. It's a work in progress. Cool. Okay. Well, thanks for that last question. I didn't see any other chat come in. Oh, some scheduling. So yeah, lots of stuff happening tomorrow. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Iron Wolf, for commenting on my experience. It is one of those things. The more you work with Lua, the more you work with plugins, the more little, they call them code smells, where you see someone that's like, that's not quite right. Let's focus in on that and see. And so someone is just spending a lot of time trying things. You'll notice a lot of times today I was like, what does this do? I don't know. Let's find out. Or I don't remember well enough, so let's just try it. And that's something that's really fun about working in the sandbox environment of LOTRO, is there's almost nothing you can do that will negatively impact the game. You just try something and maybe it doesn't look right. Maybe it draws vertical lines on the screen like this. But you just try it and see what happens. And so there's a lot of flexibility and freedom in having a sandbox in which you can work. Okay. Well, let me go ahead and let's see. Oh, that's fun. Cool. Okay. Well, I don't see anything else coming in, and I don't blame you. This has been I think we're just over 3 hours here. That's amazing. Thank you all for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. That's all we're going to cover today. I do hope to see you all next week. This has been a lot of fun, a lot of awesome chat in the Twitch stream, and also a lot of catching my typos. It's lovely. It's great. So I do hope to see you all next week, and until then, keep plugging along.